Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to an all-new season of the League Zero Formula Series as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing and proudly powered by none other than INCA Salsa. That's right folks, the much-loved League Zero Series is back once again and it is time for Season 18, just after the embers, ashes and dust have settled from Season 17. It was a thrilling finale of the Cirque du Spa-Francorchamps. We have made our way back to the tarmac once again, and with our 18th instalment in store, beginning, of course, with our 201st Grand Prix today, we've got plenty of racing action ahead, not just for this round of racing, of course, but for the whole season. 11 rounds, and come the end of it all, we'll need to crown a brand new Drivers' Champion or a recurring one, given the fact we've got the return of quite a few famous names, and of course, we also do have the thought of a Teams Championship that lies ahead. And well, without further ado, we need to get started today. Of course, you're catching this broadcast as a post-round broadcast for your viewing pleasure. All the racing action you're seeing is not actually live. It occurred back on Thursday, the 19th of March, 2026, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Friday, the 20th of March. Therefore, we do not know what is currently going on in the practice session in the background until it unfolds, and on the upcoming qualifying session, or indeed our all-important two races, and it's going to be as close as possible to the real live viewing experience for you guys and girls tuning in at home. So settle in, get yourself some popcorn, because this is going to be absolute peak cinema, and let's get going. This broadcast being brought to you on YouTube at youtube.com and search for Porsche Productions or PWP. You're able to catch the race in action on a weekly basis there. And a huge thank you to League Zero administration for allowing Porsche Productions to continue presenting these broadcasts. And in the content, if you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your race action as it unfolds. In terms of our schedule for today, well, the times are in Eastern Daylight Time, EDT, or Universal Coordinate Time -4, UTC -4. And as we can see, in approximately what will be about 13 minutes time, we're making our way into our qualifying session, the first of many for this season at 9:15, 15 minutes in duration. All our drivers having plenty of time to try and go for pole position, after which we'll then be seeing our drivers make the way to the grid for the 10-lap sprint race at 9:30 this evening. Then we do take a brief breather before returning for our second race, of course 3 times the length. It'll be the 32-lap feature race at 9:45. Well, of course, we are here in Austria at the Red Bull Ring, a circuit that is absolutely synonymous with Formula 1, whereas it was previously known as the Österreich Ring, alternatively the A1 Ring, and now the Red Bull Ring due to sponsorship reasons, as the circuit was revived under the ownership of Helmut Marko's company. This is going to be one circuit that is definitely going to be a great test for our drivers, given its duality of nature. But to come on to the nature of the circuit, we'll speak about that shortly, because we've got plenty to cover before we do go into qualifying. So let's see how quickly we can cover things as we make our way to taking a look at your calendar for this season. And as we can see, we commence today, but we have got an absolutely brilliant calendar line ahead of us. The Red Bull Ring is just one of an absolutely brilliant set of venues which is going to be playing host, because after this one, we then make our way to the United States of America for the Watkins Glen International Circuit in the US of A. Then we'll be heading to Japan for the Mobility Resort Motegi, a circuit that is definitely very well affiliated with Super Formula Racing, whether it be Super Formula Light or Super Formula SF23 machines. Then round number 4, we head to Germany for the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg, the Hermann Tilke redesigned version of the Hockenheimring since 2002, and it's been a staple of the Formula 1 calendar ever since. Then, in the midst of April, we're heading in round number 5 to Circuit Zandvoort, a circuit that we're very familiar with in the Netherlands there, where it's heavily cambered corners. Brian drives the opportunity to overtake both on the inside and outside. And then round number 6, we decide to swap out one of our circuits in the iRacing official calendar. Indeed, we're not afraid to do that here at League Zero, and we decided to introduce St. Petersburg to the calendar for round number 6, the all-new circuit arriving in the 2026 Season 2 update on iRacing. And we're very happy to have it arriving on the 23rd of April for your viewing pleasure. Then we make it away to the United Kingdom for the much-loved Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for round number 7. And then we do have a mid-season break week. But when we do return on the 14th of May, it will be at the Hungaroring, the challenging circuit, or arguably the Monaco without the walls, and that will be for round number 8. Then we make it away to Japan for the Suzuka International Racing Course in round number 9 on the 21st of May. And then we complete May with what will be round 10 of 11 at the Long Beach Street Circuit in downtown Long Beach in the US state of California. But we head to a classic for the finale. It's going to be, of course, the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache round 11-11 on the 4th of June, and there we will be crowning our champions. There's nothing quite like having a season end at the Interlagos circuit, given the fact, of course, it is the home to the infamous Is That Glock moment all the way back in 2008. But still, what we haven't is that Glock moment of our own this season. We've got a long way to go before we do find out, but a brilliant calendar, no doubt about it. And, well, we have got some absolutely incredible venues. Many of them we're familiar with, but St. Petersburg in particular for round number 6 is going to be a whole new world to our drivers, indeed, to League Zero. And we're very much looking forward to that, as well as the venues of old. But, of course, if that's all of our venues for this season, let's talk a little little bit about our host venue for today, shall we? It's, of course, the Red Bull Rings Grand Prix layout. Located near the town of Spielberg in the district of Bezirk-Murtal in the Styrian state of Austria. This circuit, a huge thank you to iRacing.com for their brilliant circuit maps alongside their absolutely fantastic simulator, is one that everybody will normally be familiar with. Because at its core, it is a circuit which does consist of two halves that split across 2.68 miles in length. 10 corners as well, and that makes it sound quite simple when you think about it. And the first half of a lap, yes, very simple with regards to the design. All you got to think about is long straights, heavy braking zones as our drivers roar the way down the start finish straight, or should we say up it, in the fact they'll be driving uphill in towards Niki Lauda bend at turn number 1. As they head up the hill and into the sweeping right-hander, it's then full power all the way as they make their way up towards AMS AG. Now, whether you refer to it as turn 3 or turn 2, that's always the subject of a household debate around the dinner table. But the reason why we're calling it turn 3 at the hairpin up there is because of the fact you do have the kink at turn number 2, which our drivers will go flat out through. But that is, of course, to honour the fact that would be where the MotoGP chicane would exist if we were racing on motorcycles. But thankfully, we're racing on 4 wheels, not 2. So our drivers will make the way out for the turn 2 kink and then hard on the brakes at the highest point of the circuit at turn number 3. They'll come all the way down to apex speeds of approximately 56 miles an hour, but will make their way back of themselves down towards Rauschbend at turn number 4. There, that will complete the first half of lap as it will be a downhill braking zone into a very gradual apex, but as they come on out, they'll find the circuit's going to go from straight starts and all the way through to hard stops, and it will be turning instead into a circuit which is all about cambered corners and plenty of apex speed. Indeed, medium speed corners will dominate proceedings as they make their way through turn number 5, the long right-hander. They'll come in over the crest and in towards Power Horse Bend at turn number 6. There it's downhill at the apex and off camber as they roar the way down. They've got to be wary of track limits or the gravel trap on the outside. Well, they come down in towards turn number 7, a downhill braking zone, and they need to shut the car at the corner as quickly as they can before going flat out through 8 and over the hill and downhill into Jochen Bend at turn number 9, named after, of course, the legendary racing driver. As they make their way down through turn number 9, then go into A1 corner at turn number 10, which is cambered at the apex positively, but negatively cambered on the exit, as should they get it absolutely right, they'll carry all the speed onto the start finish straight to make their way up the hill towards Niki Lauda bend once again, or to finally see what will be that checker flag. And of course, turn number 1, recently renamed to Niki Lauda bend in honour of the legendary driver, and the three-time Formula 1 champion, and also, of course, a stalwart of the Mercedes-AMG Modern Petronas Formula 1 team. But that is our circuit. Two halves in its nature. One about power, the other about cornering ability, a formidable test for our drivers to get themselves underway and prove themselves today. But in terms of our rules before we go racing, because we do need to give you a reminder, and what exactly has changed this season? Well, not much, because here at League Zero, we definitely do embody the principle, which is if it's not broken, don't fix it. So car setup-wise, you'll see that this is a fixed setup series that continues to be. Car fuel loads have been restricted, as always, to 40%. Qualifying-wise, we continue with the open format, which means all the drivers will be out of the circuit together, looking to go for pole position, and that means they can try to utilise slipstream off of one another, where it be teammates or rivals, and with the long straights around here, slipstream is definitely going to prove valuable in the first half of a lap. There is no overtime, however, in qualifying. That continues as well, so it means in the 15 minutes, our drivers must get their laps done. Within the 15 minutes. If they go beyond that, the laps will immediately be discounted and they head back to the pit lane and go to the grid for the first of our races. So therefore, there's a bit of time pressure in qualifying. You don't have all the time available in theory. Now, when we do go to the grid for our races, they will continue to commence via a standing start as a tradition of Super Formula Racing. And indeed, in any Formula series, you normally do see the racing begin via standing start. Drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty upon reaching 17 instant points. That also stays with us. However, what has slightly changed is the disqualification limit. It has been changed to 25 instant points, and that is to align with the iRacing official series. Of course, we do base our calendar, and a good baseline of this series is taken from the iRacing Super Formula fixed officials, so that's why we are seeing that slight change to make sure everything lines up very nicely. Indeed, when our drivers decide to use the officials to practice in the build-up to each and every round, they really are able to use them as a realistic comparison of what they're going to be doing when they do race on the League Zero Formula Series Season 18 grid. Now, the grid for the feature race shall be set based on the finishing positions of the sprint race, and we continue our top 6 inversion. Indeed, there's no change there, so what that means in simple terms is the winner of the sprint race, they will start in what will be 6th place of the feature, and we continue that inversion down to the 6th place finisher of the sprint, who starts on pole for the purposes of our feature race. Those who finish 7th and downwards, you guessed it right, that's exactly where they're going to be starting for the second race of the night. And there are no mandatory pit stop requirements in the races, so it does mean Now, we're not expecting anybody to come into the pits for the sprint race, at least, unless they picked up a drive-through penalty or a lot of damage on the car. However, in the feature race, we normally do expect at least one pit stop to occur, given the restriction on the fuel tank. But drivers think they can go the whole distance of a single tank of fuel, they're more than willing to try. Indeed, that's why we keep it completely open. There's no mandatory requirement. And also, it does mean that typically drivers will change tyres, but if you want to try and get away with not changing tyres, you're welcome to do so as well. So that's a recap of the rules, the regulations, and we've set the scene, perhaps, for this season ahead. But let's make our way back to circuit side, because, of course, as our drivers make their way around in this final practice warm-up session, we do need to talk a little bit about our grid for this season. Now, here's the man we need to start with, of course, for MSR Purple, albeit the team's entering as a privateer for this season. They do not have an official team's entry currently, so therefore they won't be competing in the team's championship. It is none other than Finley Fitzsimmons, now a three-time champion after that incredible finale in Belgium last time out, whereby it was looking as though it was going against him every step of the way after what was a dismal run from round number 6 through to round number 8. But in our 200th Grand Prix here at League Zero, what we got to see in Season 17 was that suddenly this man had all his luck come back to him, and after a huge incident between Adam Merchant and Elliott Court in the feature race, which really did end their races, it opened the doorway for this man to become a three-time champion. Even though the odds were against him, it looked like it was going the way of Adam Merchant to become a three-time champion instead. So it means now that suddenly we do have Finley Fitzsimmons getting one step ahead of both Russell Soto and Adam Merchant. Elliott Court still stayed on one title. Of course, he was your champion back from Season 16. But meanwhile, we also do have the thought that Finley Fitzsimmons needs to chase after the four-time champion of Jaden Callaway and the five-time champion of Raymond Ray Aguilar. And, well, in terms of those two names in particular, now, I don't want to spoil anything, ladies and gentlemen, but here's an interesting car. Some of you may be very familiar with this. That's right, our five-time champion, our most decorated League Zero Formula Series driver of Raymond Ray Aguilar is back once again. We'll refer to him as Ray for this point onwards, of course, but his full name Raymond there, and we're very happy to see him back there in his infamous livery machine as he roars his way on around. Well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, you could take him off the grid for a few seasons, but you can never take the spirit away from the man, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do in the number 72, as right now he's pushing hard in his practice session, testing the track limits as well, and really getting himself back up to speed. But he's back once again, and potentially going for a 6th title to see if he can raise the bar. But hold up a second, if we've got him back, well, we've also got Jaden Callaway back. There he is, sat in the pit lane at the moment, albeit the car not too visible, but yes, he is back. And well, our four-time champion is trying to go for his 5th title there to take it on versus Aguilar, but also to make sure he stays one step ahead of Finley Fitzsimmons, and that's what's going to keep things very intriguing. But we've also got Adam Merchant back as well, I do believe, and here he is in the number 4, so therefore we have got our 2-time champion back. Sadly, we don't have Russell Soto back, and I do believe Russell right now not rejoining the grid for this season, but if he is out there tuning in, Russell, we'd love to have you back, of course. It's been a long time since we've seen you on the grid, and we also do have the return of our 1-time champion, our Season 16 champion of Elliott Court for DDK Racing once again, the very proud light green livery machine as he comes on down in towards turn number 4, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. Given the fact he missed out on taking his 2nd title, but one thing that DDK Racing did not miss out on, of course, last time in Season 17 was bringing on home what was the team's championship crown, their 1st title of the season. But it was a very interesting team's championship season between them and MSR Purple, the two main conspirators to battle for the title. But what we got to see was it was really a season of who was the least inconsistent rather than the most consistent. Now, it sounds a little bit backwards. It almost sounds as I'm saying the same thing, essentially. But hear me out here in the fact that neither team really established control of the team's championship all the way through the season. There were highs at MSR Purple early on, then there were some significant lows. On the mid portion of the season, DDK Racing had some major highs, but they also had some significant lows as well. And particularly for Elliott Court and also his teammate Elliott Rolls picking up several what was qualifying bans and also a couple of pit lane starts and back of the grid starts. And what it meant for them in particular was it was this man who you see on the screen in his number 3 constantly have to try and carve his way through the field, particularly most infamously in the 2 races at Interlagos midway through the season. He was able to do so and pick up some major points. Meanwhile, it was for Elliott Court to try and hold on at the very front of the field whilst Rolls was picking up the pieces at the back of the field. But to be fair, both drivers put in some absolutely valiant efforts, no doubt about it. Conversely, for MSR Purple, Finley Fitzsimmons really dominated the proceedings at the front, particularly in the early portion of the season, with what was sometimes back-to-back wins in a single round, or at least double podiums. Meanwhile, his teammate of Jace Mayer, who you'll see is not racing for the team this season, he's moved over to what is there, the Raccoon GP machinery. Well, in the number 77, with that change there, Jace Mayer was in a similar situation to Elliott Rolls, albeit he didn't really pick up any penalties per se. What he was instead doing was making sure he picked up the points there to supplement Fitzsimmons. But with a change of team here, we could see a change of dynamic for him. With only 40 seconds left before we do go qualifying, we do have a couple of bans and penalties that have carried over from the previous season, which we'll tell you about when we go into qualifying. But we have also got plenty of fresh names on the grid here today as well. So whilst we have got plenty of returning names and returning champions, we've also got some new blood on the grid, which we will introduce. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten about them, but we'll wait now until we go qualifying, because we'll see all the drivers out there going at it in anger, as we do see the return of INCA Salsa Racing's Craig Brick. And one of those drivers was pushing hard for top fives all the way through the season last time out. Indeed, he's back here today, currently 18th fastest in this practice session. But practice is practice. Of course, it doesn't mean anything. But what does mean something is a good qualifying lap. And good news, ladies and gentlemen, because as he makes his way towards the end of this current flying lap, it's time for us to make our way into our first qualifying session of the season. Who is going to be on pole? Well, it's time to find out here as we get proceedings underway for Season 18 of the League Zero Formula Series, brought to you on iRacing and presented by INCA Salsa. And so, qualifying begins just like that. 15 minutes begins to tick away, and who exactly is going to take the pole for the first pole position of the day? Antonio Bianchi makes his way out of the pit lane there, one of our senior administrators for the series, and we're very grateful to him for all the hard work he puts in, day out, as he roars his way onwards. Indeed, if it wasn't for this man, we wouldn't have this series after what has been 17 seasons, now back for an 18th. The man definitely absolutely loves putting on this series, and we love him for it. Now, we do have a slight change with regards to the INCA X51C team. You may have remembered them from last season, which it was Antonio Bianchi and also Fabian Sanchez. They have changed team name for this season. They have now switched their name to Competition 51, so therefore they still do have all the INCA Salsa branding over them, but they have changed their official name there, so don't be too alarmed. Well, you do see an on-the-limit racing machine just in front of him there. Who exactly is that, I hear you ask? And the answer to that question is, it is none other than, I do believe, what is the machinery? Well, it's not Elliot Rolls and it's not Adam Merchant, because there is Adam Merchant in the Squid Game racing car. Instead, I do believe that is going to be Jaden Callaway just in front of him there. And, well, Callaway, of course, in the on-limit racing car, the all-black machine. I'm very happy to have him back here, looking to see what he's going to be able to do. So he's going to stand out very proudly there in the black silhouette. And he does so. Well, we said there's plenty of new drivers here, but before we come to those, penalties today. Who exactly has got any? Well, we have a qualifying ban from previous season being carried forward for Fabian Sanchez. So, therefore, you will not see him taking part in this qualifying session. You will see him starting from the very back of the field for the sprint race. We do have a pit lane start for the sprint, and that is for Elliot Court, so he won't be taking part in this qualifying session either. He has to start from the pit lane. And we also do have a race ban for a sprint race for Shade Bruffett when he does return to the grid, and both for Elliot Court and Bruffett, it was for instance at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in the season finale. And Fabian Sanchez, who I do believe did not make the finale in Belgium, I think his penalty carried over from round number 8 of the previous season. You know, and of course we only had what was 9 rounds last season. It was a rather short season, whereas this season we have a full 11 rounds with a mid-season break thrown into the mix as well. But either way, whether we have 9, 10, 11 or 12, it always keeps things interesting here at the League Zero Formula Series. And in terms now of coming onto your newcomers onto the grid, well, firstly, here is none other than Matthew Devine as he makes his way on down in the number 88, and we wish him all the best on his debut here, the privateer, and a very notable car there. I do believe sponsored by DDK Racing, albeit not part of the team. Indeed, racing on there for what I believe in fact might be DDK TH Jordan as he comes on around. And, well, lovely livery car there with a lovely prominent pink stripe all the way through the middle of it, so you'll definitely be able to tell the car there as he heads in towards turns 5, 6, 7 and 8. As he rolls his way on through, he joins us. We also do have new to the grid, and I do apologise here if I butcher any of our newcomers' names. I'm sure they'll correct me after today's broadcast. We also do have here, hailing from the United States of America in the number 7. This is none other than David Schreikranek, and Schreikranek crossing that timeline there and putting his first ever timed lap on the board in the series as he comes on towards another lap. And right now he'll be out there in that number 7, a very lovely livery car as well, and racing as a privateer. We also do have out there none other than from Antarctica, Raf Orti, who we do see here in the number 71 car, tucking onto the back there, Schreikranek, trying to pick up a bit of a slipstream as he heads on around. And well, he's new and looking quite quick, it must be said. We wish him the best luck on his debut. And I believe we have one more driver making his debut, albeit currently in the pit lane, and that is Matt Sproul. He's very talented in the skies. He does fly aircraft for a living. However, he's also very talented on the simulator. And when we do see his car out there a little bit later on this qualifying session or in the race, we'll definitely make sure to make a point of showing him to you, because he hails from the United Kingdom. Therefore, staying up in the early hours of the morning. Indeed, we do have a few British drivers here with Insomnia. We have a few from the land of France as well. I was going to say from the French capital of France. Well, that wouldn't make any sense there. Indeed, I need a bit more sleep. But as we do have our drivers making the way on through, I'm one to talk about insomniacs, it would seem. And, well, meanwhile, as our drivers roll the way around right now, all these lap times coming in. But Matt Sproul, normally a very strong, what's closed cockpit car racer, as we have seen him previously, or at least I personally have seen him race in Porsche Cup Series, and look very quick there. But indeed, the League Zero Series brand new to him, and racing the Super Formula car brand new to him as well. But as soon as we see him, we'll show him to you. But we do see the return of Esteban Marquez here as he roars his way around, the DDK driver, the DDK TH Jordan driver, partnering up with none other than what is Matthew Devine. And as he rolls his way across that timing line, already 4.5 minutes this qualifying session complete, and those laps continue to pile in from the drivers. But right now, who's the quickest out there? Well, provisionally, early on, it's Jaden Callaway. And right now, the on-limit racing driver, the OTL driver, as they're also known, well, he's looking to be just ahead of Finney Fitzsimmons by 31 thousandths. And, well, this really is right now star-studded cast at the very front of the field. Finney Fitzsimmons going a bit sideways there, coming out 4 into 5. I think that was a bit of a reaction, perhaps, to the 71 coming on past, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was, given the fact how quickly these cars come up on each other, and the last thing you want to do is step on each other's toes. That's our RAF40 there, and I believe he's the other member of the On The Limit racing team, so therefore they do have 2 drivers on the grid for the purposes of this season, and we look forward to seeing what the pair are going to be able to do, given the fact that as he does roll his way around, On The Limit Motorsport is the formal name for the team, by the way, in case I refer to it as On The Limit Racing, and if they want to correct me afterwards, they're more than welcome to. Indeed, there we should refer to it as On The Limit Motorsport to get their title correct. As our team makes his way towards turn at number 1 right now. Well, currently 14th fastest and 41.421. Still needing to find a bit of time, but indeed it's looking very tight towards the front of the field. Only 2 tenths separating the top 3, and Adam Merchant has just threaded his way up into second there. Shane Callaway continues to raise the bar. What exactly do you need to be able to do here at the Red Bull Ring in order to be able to go for pole position? Well, it's a very interesting qualifying lap because of its half and half nature. This is not one of those laps whereby the circuit is really focused around one particular archetype of ability. Indeed, if we based it on just the first half lap, as we mentioned earlier, it would really be about power and traction and your ability to rotate the car through low-speed corners. But then again, in the second half of lap, which you are seeing Adam Merchant very quickly make his way through, you suddenly have all these medium-speed corners where you have to nail the carrying of momentum from corner to corner. But also being wary of the fact that you are driving for a series of bends which have got plenty of changes in camber on them, and therefore you've got to carry the right amount of speed, not too little, not too much. You've got to take it as a bit of a Goldilocks approach and get it right, and it feels absolutely satisfying. Get it wrong, however, and you'll very quickly be hearing that you picked up an off track by an instant point there, and it invalidates the lap entirely, and that can be the source of major frustration. That frustration can very quickly build. Elliott Rolls making his way across the timeline at 1 minute 12.685. That was in clear air there. Very good lap as he decides to bring the car to the grass, get it out the way immediately. And we'll let several cars through and then decides to actually make his way back on. I was wondering if he's going to park up on the grass there and tow back to the pit lane. But I suspect that's just simply to get out the way of other cars and not give them the slipstream. Now, how powerful is the slipstream around the Red Bull Ring, I hear you ask? Well, on the straights alone, through up towards turn 1, also up towards turn 3 and turn 4, it can be worth about 3 tenths in total. But the downside, of course, is if you are getting the tow in the run to those corners, then you're probably picking up the slipstream all the way through the rest of the lap. Unless, of course, you have a teammate who is willing to act as your pace car for the first half of the lap and then pulls away coming down in towards turn number 4. They pull over to the side and let you go. They sacrifice their lap for the greater good of your lap, and then you'll most likely have to return the favour afterwards. That can be worth it, but of course it does also mean if you start at the very front of the field, which Jaden Callaway right now in theory will be doing so, as he sets an even faster lap now, 1 minute 12.375. He's really going for it right now. He's absolutely pumping the laps in, and he's still got half the qualifying session to go, or thereabouts. We'll start in the front row is not ideal, because if you don't get the best of starts, you're going to be in a drag race all the way out towards AMS AG at turn number 3, and we'll be in the lead car with no slipstream to work with, even though you do have the push to pass button. Well, you do the mathematics here. If everybody has to push to pass, but the drivers behind you have the slipstream, they're the ones who've got the advantage. They will be able to get to the top speed, these cars, of 190 miles an hour quicker than you, and they will be able to look for an opportunity to battle with you into that braking zone. But down the hill Callaway comes, and we owe you an on-board lap, ladies and gents, with one of our drivers. And in fact, we're going to get one on board here with Esteban Marquez as he takes us around for a flying lap of the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix circuit. So making his way uphill in towards turn number 1. Dab the brakes, drop down to 3rd gear, and now full throttle all the way up towards turn number 3. Abuse the downforce at the opening corner to carry the speed. At this point, no push to pass act, of course. They don't get to use the overtake button in qualifying. They're only allowed to use it in the race. Looks his left-hand side with his brake marker and braking out around 80 metres in corner apex all the way down to 1st gear. Plenty of steering lock, and just like that, through the hairpin. Now heading down towards turn number 4, in towards Roush Bend, and at this point keeping the car over to the left-hand side. You'll notice very shortly he's going to brake a bit earlier here because it's down here on the braking, and braking there at the 100-metre board all the way down to 2nd gear. Nice and early apex for roll the car through, and now heading up towards Power Horse Bend at turn number 6. Keep the car to the right side. Brake for a corner you can't see. It's unsighted as he heads down the hill. And finally clip that apex curb. Pull the car around and now full throttle in towards turn number 7. Here we go. Drop the brakes and into 4th gear. And rolling his way from left into right. And now full throttle all the way out towards Jochen Rindt Bend. And now looking to his left-hand side for the marshal's post. That's going to act as his initial reference marker, and it's the 50-meter board there where you'll dab the brakes, drop a gear, shut the car in, and now onto the brakes a little bit more, down to 4th gear, using all the entry curve as far as he dares to dream to do so, and to the timeline markers goes. And what's it going to be this time? It's a 13.023, a very quick lap there. And a very impressive lap, to be fair, from it in the number 95. Puts him into 7th place once again. And right now he continues to glue himself to 7th place, no matter how many times people try to chuck him out of 7th place. But speaking of a new name on the grid, we said we'd find Matt Spur out there eventually. Here he is. And the number 5 driver makes his way onwards and puts his first lap on the board. It's a 13.878. But of course for him, this season is going to be just as much about learning the Super Formula machinery as it is about being the most competitive out there. But he does have a huge amount of competitive spirit, this man. And I'll tell you one thing, if you put him in what is a situation where he's a rookie, by the end of the season, he'll be targeted to become a professional at the craft. So therefore, expect him to learn very quickly as the season goes on. Don't expect him to be winning races on day 1 necessarily, or even finishing on the podium or the top 5, but expect by the midpoint of the season he will be nipping into the top 10, if not the top 5 by then. And by the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see him take at least 1 race win, because that is the nature of Matt. He's one of those drivers who's very quick at learning, to be fair, and a very, very talented individual, both on the simulator and outside of it. As he continues to make his way around, decided to join the qualifying session quite late in the day, only joined it with half of it to go. And therefore, I think he's been perhaps doing some observations what other drivers are doing in the privateer. And it's always good to look at others as a bit of a benchmark because, of course, of the fact you can always learn from observing. And right now, Adam Merchant currently holds the fastest time. And a 1 minute 12.303. Jaden Callaway is only 13 thousandths behind. This qualifying session is really close at the moment. And we'll wait to see who else can potentially improve out there. Meanwhile, we look back to 9th place. And here's Aguilar right now. Currently still trying to find a bit more time, as he's still the best part there of what is 200th of Antonio Bianchi. Those two very used to battling with each other. Indeed, I remember all those years ago when I previously did commentate a small segment of seasons for League Zero, where it's absolutely incredible battling between them and indeed other drivers. But of course, we've had new faces join the grid since then, including the likes of Finley Fitzsimmons, and also what's been the constant return of Adam Merchant and Jaden Callaway. And where you can understand, of course, the future is now, as the saying goes. Indeed, the pace is always getting quicker and quicker for our drivers, as we do see our number 72 driver here trying to stay a little bit closer to those ahead. But speaking of an improvement, Matthew Devine here moves up to 8th, and well, that 1 minute 12.981, not a good lap, but to be fair, that's not a good start to lap either, losing it very much sideways out of 1, hitting the sausage curve on corner exit there. That never helps if you make a mistake like that, but understandably, that's how hard he's pushing it. Shows how much he's giving it all, and right now it's not being given back to him at all. Arturo Mayorga has improved slightly, as meanwhile Carlos Balanas comes across the timeline with a 13.860. New livery on the car there for him. Indeed, the team. Very lovely car for, I believe, at Rodent GP. And as he heads onwards right now, well, we very much look forward to seeing what they're going to be able to do later on in this session. And, well, something tells me right now the inspiration for those colours there. In fact, I've probably got myself completely mixed up. I'm thinking back to all the way back to the Ayrton Senna GP days on the Sega, as he gets it rolled there coming through AMS AG, trying to get the power down the car, going on around. But for some reason, I want to say those colours have been inspired by one of the top tier cars from Ayrton Senna's Monaco GP version 2 game on the Sega Mega Drive. I don't think that's the official name of the game, to be fair. I've probably got it slightly wrong, but it was the sequel, and there was a car there. I think it was the top car, which had yellow and orange, and it was a very similar set of colour shades colour shade positions compared to what they've got there for what's the Rodent GP team, albeit the purple being replaced by orange there. And that was meant to be in commemoration of course, none other than the McLaren Honda MP44 of the time, and well, understandably, they couldn't quite use those colours for copyright reasons, but it was all based on, I think it was called the Maradona car, in fact. But as we stop waxing lyrical about games of the past, meanwhile, we come back to the present, and Shry Cadet, currently 11th fastest here. Can he go a little bit quicker? He does, a 13.285, and that moves him a little bit more confidently into that 11th place spot. Now, 1.5 tenths ahead of Gareth McAllister, the number 25 driver here, pushing on as much as he possibly can. And the INCA Salsa Racing driver here feeling as though there's perhaps a bit more time in the bank, albeit still got to find it as he rolls his way up the hill. With that, well, currently we have an absolute dead split at the very top between Jaden Callaway and Elliot Rolls. Both drivers here looking very close, and well, it does understand we seem to be right now that because Jaden Callaway set that time first, he right now is going to be your potential pole sitter, unless Adam Merchant and Elliot Rolls can find a bit more time, but they're all running out of time now. There's not too long left in this qualifying session. They're all going to be onto their final lap soon, if not already, given the fact we have no overtime here. So this is getting razor tight as Leo Domar across the time, and he will not get another lap in here, given the fact he's only got a minute left to go. So this is more now just about seeing what he can find, as he takes way too much apex curve at turn number 1, and well, he's finding himself going to a default there. Meanwhile, Jace Mayer across the timeline, what's he going to be able to do this time around? It stays ninth, does not improve. Elliot rolls into the pit lane, so he will not be moving above pole position. Meanwhile, Adam Merchant makes his way around here. He's currently gone purple in the middle sector, so Merchant right now in the do or die part of this qualifying session, taking all the road as he rolls his way from left into right here through turns 7 and 8. Is this going to be enough? He's got nobody in front of him right now to obscure him. The next car's 5 seconds up the road. That is going to be Jaden Callaway. Speaking of which, Jaden Callaway here for On The Limit Motorsport coming through. Esteban Marquez has improved to a 12.741. Knowles improves to 13.493. Does Callaway improve? No, he does not. Meanwhile, does Adam Merchant improve? No, he does not either. So, Merchant stays third. Callaway seems to be the pole sitter here. Can Fitzsimmons fight? Oh my good lord, that's Matt Sparrow into the barrier there. Getting out the final quarter. Thankfully, Fitzsimmons is able to squeeze on through, but he does not move up from fourth. That is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. A 10th separating the top 4. Our closest qualifying session in a long time between 4 drivers. And with that, we head to the grid for the first of our 2 races for today. What a dramatic end to the qualifying session. But here we are, and this is how they all line up for the first race of Season 18 of the League Zero Formula Series, presented by INCA Salsa, brought to you today from the Red Bull Ring in Austria for round 1 and 11. And it is Jaden Callaway who takes pole position in the end, where 1 minute 12.237 set in the lap before Elliot Rolls did. Otherwise, they were absolutely even, and the On Limit Motorsport driver absolutely on the limit, no doubt about it. And joining him on the front row of the grid will be the man who matched his time in qualifying, DDK Racing's Elliot Rolls. Indeed, a very impressive lap there from Elliot Rolls. He's normally been second best of the DDK Racing drivers, but here today he's proven himself to be the best. And then we do have Adam Merchant starting further for Squid Gang Racing, 66 thousandths behind, and only 400ths faster than Finney Fitzsimmons, who improved to 4th right at the end of the session. The Britain then been followed up by Leo Domar for Rodent GP, ahead of Antonio Bianchi for competition 51. Then on row number 4, we do have DDK TH Jordan's Esteban Marquez ahead of his teammate there, newcomer to the grid, but doing a brilliant job in qualifying, Matthew Devane. Then we do have behind them none other than Jace Mayer for Rodent GP, ahead of Ray Aguilar. The Squid Gang Racing driver round off the top 10 there, the 5-time champion, and well, a bit of a slow start in qualifying, but to be fair, I'm sure he's going to make quick improvements as the season goes on. And then do have starting at 11th none other than David Schreikeneck, who's just ahead of Gareth McAllister for Inca Chips Racing. And then from the Australians to the American of Robert Nobles, followed up by Craig Brick, who rounds off your 7th row. The Inca Salsa Racing driver then be followed up by the Antarctican driver On The Limit Motorsport, Raf Alti, ahead of Matt Sparrow on his debut. That huge shunt to the barrier. Well, the team very quickly got the car repaired for the privateer in the number 5. And it'll be Carlos Balanos, who starts 17th for Raccoon GP, ahead of his teammate of Xavier Zainav. Ontario Mioga begins the day in 19th place for Inca Chips Racing, ahead of Renison Lowe. And then we do have outside the top 20, not to be forgotten about, of course, the qualifying ban for Elliot Court for DDK Racing. We also do see their competition 51's Fabian Sanchez with his own what will be back of the grid start. In fact, it will be, of course, the pit lane start there for Fabian Sanchez. And we also do have no lap set for Austin Thomas there, starting from the very back of the field. So they're all almost set. In fact, it's a pit lane start. We should correct ourselves at Elliot Court, and it is going to be a back of the grid start there for none other than what will be, I do believe, at Fabian Sanchez. But as they all get themselves ready to go, well, everyone's itching for a fight, no doubt about it. But who exactly is going to get the job done on the night? Well, that grid almost in position, and the lights almost going on for the first time today, ladies and gentlemen. We've got 10 laps of racing awaiting us, but we are just waiting for the last couple of cars to take their positions on this grid. And well, of course, in terms of those who do need to take their positions, we have none other than Adam Merchant will be starting that second row, but there's a gap there. But for Finley Fitzsimmons, as we do sit on board his car just for a brief moment, we'll understandably the privateer from the United Kingdom, he thinks himself at this point that it's a short run towards turn number 1, but it's going to be a tough one because he is surrounded by very quick drivers, and Leo Domar wasn't too far off of the top 4 either. It's been one of the closest qualifying performances of the top 10 so far in history in the last couple of seasons, but Fitzsimmons has got some work to do to go up that hill. Now, is Adam Merchant going to make his way onto the grid? Yes, he is. He does arrive in the end of his destination. This grid absolutely stacked and packed full of cars, and well, we are just waiting for the gridding procedure to be completed, and it will be 5 red lights, and we'll be away for the first time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here come the lights. And, well, without further ado, for the first time in Season 18, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, firing lights! And it's lights and away we go for Season 18 with race number 1 of the season getting underway. Good start there from Jaden Callaway. Meanwhile, Adam Merchant and Elliot Rolls side by side as they head in towards the opening corner. 2 wide, they enter 3 wide behind as Antonio Bianchi there squeezed up onto the sausage curve on the apex of 1. Just about survives it there, but he's going to have to give some time back, I believe, and also settle the car down. But everyone's safely through the opening couple of corners there as they make their way up the rise. And Adam Merchant right now immediately trying to put some pressure on to Jaden Callaway, but instead finds himself under pressure from Finney Fitzsimmons, who tries to go round the outside. Further back there, coming through AMS AMG. We do see there Jace Mann and Matthew Devine side by side as David Schreikenec tries to capitalise. Schreikenec here trying to go all the way around the outside as they power the way on down. Devine right now falling back as meanwhile into that braking zone. We can see there Aguilar cutting up the inside behind, but this is going to be Mayer cutting onto the inside of Schreikenec. Through for a lovely move there from Jace Mann. Gains a place, gains at his second place since the start of this race, and they all settle down now. Do those. That's going to be a counter attack there from Schreikenec in towards Power Horse, but that's going to be too far back there. He's going to have to wait his turn instead. Further back, Rafforti there. Oh, Cargo spinning around. That's gone very wrong there. And well, I believe that's David Zane now. Car going rolling backwards onto the grass. I don't know if he's been pushed there as well. And I don't know if there was contact initially as he gets the car turned back around. Well, the good news is he's going racing once again. But meanwhile, after one lap turn, we've got still plenty more to come. Where Shane Callaway, who leads this race, header Adam Merchant, followed by Finley Fitzsimmons. Then it's Elliot Rolls. That's your top 4. Elliot Rolls losing from 2nd to 4th. Meanwhile, everyone else has progressed or stayed the same. Leo Delmar started 5th, currently there. Head of Antonio Bianchi, followed by Jace Mayer. And then we do have David Schreikenec, ahead of Ray Aguilar, and also Matthew Devine as they roar the way onwards towards lap number 2 of 10. There's plenty more laps to go in this one, no doubt about it. But right now, as they make their way up the hill, what we do see here, Del Mar under pressure from Rolls, and I think they've swapped places once. They're going to swap them back again, and it is going to be Rolls getting back and through there, and he'll be very pleased with that and the fact he's been able to recover that place. But understandably, he would not want to be losing the top 3 right now, starting to head off into the distance. So going down to the braking zone here, Antonio Bianchi now looks around the outside of Del Mar. Can he find the move? The answer is no. He's hoping perhaps he would be able to do so, but I think it's too early to try and make such a move as that. But as they roll the way on down the hill in towards Power Horse Bend, Ray Aguilar, he's still looking over the back here of Schreikenec. And we said earlier the fact that don't expect it to be the quickest out there in qualifying, but expect it to really build up the pace as the racing goes on. Indeed, much like the modern Formula 1 Ferrari, in the fact that he can make some lightning starts but lose his paces later in the race, well, he's going to try and be the opposite in that regard. He's going to try and make up the pace over the distance of the race instead. But going in towards that braking zone for turn number 9, we can see that Devine and also Nobles are queuing up behind. Elliot Court, meanwhile, having started from the pit lane. He's already passed David Zane now, who had that spin, of course, at turn number 6 only months ago. And now he's on the back of Arturo Mayorga, who we need to give a shout out for the fact that if it were not possible for him, we won't be able to bring you a replay of the racing action we missed earlier on, which we will come back to very shortly. But right now, let's see what Court can do here as he heads towards the timeline in the draft. Going on to lap number 3, can he find a way past? The answer is no, not initially. Instead, he's potentially going to have to now try and find it heading up the hill. But as we ride on board here, a bit of a run wide through turn number 1, and does not make things anything easier for the number 23 driver as he ascends the rise. And looking to the inside here, and as he does so, well, he's going to go all in on the brakes. And in the end, the door's been left open, and Mayorga's going to keep the space nice and open for him and decides to tuck him behind instead and try to use the draft off the back of him. Now, Esteban Marquez is leaving the pit lane after repair work to the car, so there's a bit of a story there to be understood. Indeed, we've got a few stories, and we had a few position changes. We have, in fact, had a bit of a change here. This is the battle for, I believe, 10th through to 12th place. And in fact, that is going to be Gareth McAllister trying to go around the outside of Aguilar for 11th. Is he going to get it done? The answer is no. The outside there of the double left-hander doesn't normally work out unless you've got a lot of confidence and your rival is very slow on the inside. But Aguilar is not slow, and with Gareth McAllister not having the confidence to be able to try and commit to that move all the way round. Meanwhile, going down the hill in towards the final bend, that's a slow move in Leo Delmar there. I wonder if potentially he's cut track limits and have to burn a slowdown penalty, or where he's made a mistake. But either way, he drops that to 6th place. It's all chop and change. And at the front of the field, Jaden Callaway still keeping Adam Merchant at bay, although Merchant has just at the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 12.56 to the nearest 100. So therefore, he's trying to push on now using the push to pass button. They do get 200 seconds of it, which normally does last the whole distance in the sprint race if you use it every lap, depends on the circuit. And right now, that Schreikenec sprinting up the inside, wheel-to-wheel contact there, and Jace Mag gets elbowed wide. Schreikenec meanwhile went all in on the move. He's going to hold the position there. Now, will it be the situation where the stewards will deem it as a push to pass there? Will it come down to whether it's reported by his rival driver as there's a front wing missing for Fitzsimmons' car? Oh my goodness, it's all gone up into the air there. And that's not how you make a move. You can't go over the top of your rival. And in the end, both Fitzsimmons and also Elliot Rolls, they will both be towed to the pits. It's all got a rope between them. And we'll have to get a replay of that as soon as we can. But Sonny Antonio Bianchi finds himself back up into the podium places, much like at Spa-Francorchamps. chance. It only requires 2 in front of him to take each other out, and suddenly the door is wide open. My good lord, what a moment. We're not even halfway through the opening race, and we've already had plenty of drama there. And well, as we do see Matthew Devine chased after Jace Mayer right now. Well, the top 5 is just in front of them, but also 6th place as well. Leo Del Mar is into the pit lane. I wonder if Del Mar's potentially picked up a drive-through penalty for what would be off tracks an instant point. Where so that is not good news at all. I can't see any damage to that car unless there's something underneath the body that we can't see, and therefore it'd be understandable. It's damage to the suspension. It's not always visible, but right now, as our drivers make the way on suddenly, well, this race is really open up here, and the battle to be pole sitter for the 32-lap feature race that's coming up after this. It could not be closer right now because it's Schreiker, Mayer, Devine, and also Nobles all together with Aguilar, McAllister, and Sporell trying to get into the run. And hold up a second, Matt Sporell, he's made his way all the way up here to 10th place. How exactly has he done that? We'll try and get some replays of what's happened shortly. But as they make the way down the hill, that's Craig Brick making his way on past now. I think Sporell just going a bit too deep into the hairpin. And Rafalti now watching on behind. But still, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we need to take a look back at some of the big moments on the start of the race. And here we go for a brief trip back in time as we do bring you some replays of all the opening couple of lap action. And these replays courtesy of Arturo Mayorga. Now, Matt Sporell, when he did get started, what exactly happened here? Because he did have, I think, a bit of a stall on the grid potentially. And, well, as the revs then dropped, a little bit slow off the getaway there, but actually looked fine, and that's how he was able to potentially look for a move on Craig Brick. So he went 3 wide there in towards turn number 1. Did it work out? And the answer was yes, it did. And he tried to squeeze up past the INCA Salsa racing car. That was Gareth McAllister, but unfortunately McAllister having a bit of a slow start, and that just blunted his momentum. Then we did have this big month for Carlos Balanas a bit late on lap number 1. This was him side by side at the time with Xavier Zainab, the 2 teammates together, and as he went up the hill into the braking zone, went late on the brakes then, decided to duck off road to avoid tapping the rear of what would have been the car of Rafalti there. So good awareness from Balanas, otherwise that would have been absolute drama and not the kind of drama we want to see. Unfortunately, we then had this drama for Xavier Zainab, his teammate, coming in towards Power Horse Bend, went in, cars already battling each other, and I think there was a tap to the rear there of the On Limit Motorsport car, and there was a car missing a front wing there. Didn't quite see who it was, but we did see, I think that might have been the car of what was, I want to take a guess at potentially Renison Lowe, but something went wrong for them. We then had this on lap number 4, of course. This was the big drama. Finley Fitzsimmons and let it Rolls. Rolls was up the inside, went deep, and in the end Fitzsimmons hit the rear of the car. Rolls lost control as a result of that contact to the rear, and oh goodness me, that was a nightmare moment. This is what it looked like on board from Fitzsimmons' perspective. So Rolls is going to suddenly appear up the inside, dives for it, but then in the process of trying to get the throttle down, Fitzsimmons had already committed to the throttle and just went over the back of Rolls, who in an unsettled car was going nowhere fast. And then we had this moment between Craig Brick and Matt Sporell, only was a lap later. This was Craig Brick looking for the potential move. Well, he'd gone a bit deep there, but it was Matt Sporell gone even deeper by comparison, and Sporell making a mistake, losing his spot in the top 10, at least for that moment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we head back to live racing because we still got plenty more racing to come. And as we do, there's not too many more laps left in this one. That's understandably why we do want to catch back up with you live at racing action. But what exactly is happening? Well, side by side there, Devine versus Mayer. And once they come on down, Jace Mayer still holding on to 5th place, at least for now. Your top 4 have relatively broken away from the rest of the field, but this fight for 5th and 6th right now is absolutely escalating here. And we're not complaining at that, as that's going to be Devine looking around the outside. That's not going to work. And Nobles and Aguilar queuing up behind here as they roll the way back on themselves once again. Gareth McAllister, he comes into the back of this group. Bit of gravel being kicked up there by the MSR Green privateer machine of Robert Nobles, who went wide at turn number 8. So easy to make the state as Aguilar looking to the inside of turn number 9. Doesn't quite find it. And rolling away down the hill now. In towards lap number 8 here. Well, McAllister just a little bit understeer creeping in. That's the dirty air. And the aero wash just catching him out. That's going to cost him some time. But of course, they'll pick up an instant point as well. Not what you want. Well, we can see there Robert Nobles under increasing pressure as the MSR Green privateer now, well, trying to get a good exit there coming out of turn number 1. But the problem is, even if you do get a good exit, you still got the best. Oh, hold up a second. That's Rafalti going around. Alti goes for a spin at turn number 1. And was he gets it back together there. Brief brush with the wall, but that car should be A-OK to carry on racing. Albeit driver and tyres may not be, to be fair. Definitely a bit of a brown trouser moment if I've ever seen one. It has a spin that big. But meanwhile, as we come back to the front of the field, well, here we go then. This is going to be Nobles, Devine and Aguilar together. They've left left Mayer behind, or Mayer's left them behind, we should say. Aguilar on the inside, coming off Divine for now, and indeed it's Robert Nobles who's proving to be the forward at everybody's side here. Not that he's being a bad driver, he's just proving to be a bit too obstinate, and he's moved into 6th in the run of turn number 3, and Aguilar is still trying to find his way into that 6th place spot. He wants that pole position for race number 2. They all do, to be fair. They all want the opportunity, even more points, because remember, the sprint race, it's worth a few less points compared to the feature race, and you only score points in the top 10 finishing positions for the sprint, when it's the top 12 for the feature race, if my memory serves me correctly. But meanwhile, fastest lap of the race goes to Adam Merchant of 1 minute 11.969, the only driver now to set a 1 minute 11 in this race. Everybody else is in the 12s and the 13s. But given the amount of fighting going on here, well, the pace is definitely going to slip away from many a driver as they head onto the penultimate lap. We're definitely going to be going the full race distance in this one, and indeed, new for this season, of course, there is a new regulation. We haven't mentioned it earlier on, but we do have the opportunity of safety cars only appearing in the feature races now. They've been ruled out to the sprint races because there's not enough time for them, and therefore it's an expectation that our drivers will drive as clean as possible in both races, but particularly so in the sprint, because otherwise you're going to lose out there if you get caught in a big shunt. But meanwhile, as Robert Nobles there continues to defend hard versus Aguilar, Aguilar looking one way, then looking the other. He can't find his way past right now, and Nobles doing a very impressive job here of keeping the 5-time champion at bay. But down the hill they go, and Nobles here just making his car nice and wide in the middle of the road, around the outside. Aguilar tries to do it. Is it going to work? The answer is no. So as they make the way now back in towards turn number 6, well, it's still a bit more effort to be done there. Overtake button's definitely on the active, as you can see the flashing green halo above the driver. And that's an indication there. If it's flashing quickly, it does mean that they have got the overtake button active. If it's flashing slowly, it means they're running out of it. But meanwhile, we're running out of laps here as our leader makes his way onto the final lap. It is going to be Jaden Callaway leading right now. And as he comes across that timeline, we'll add a Merchant a bit further behind. And then we do have Antonio Bianchi all the way back 9 seconds or so, as David Schreikenec meanwhile sits a further 2 seconds adrift. But all these drivers heading up the hill. Here's going to be a look from Craig Brick or Gareth McAllister, or is it? No, it's not. In fact, he does not go for it. He's going to wait a little bit later to potentially look for the move up in towards turn number 3 instead. I do see Matt Sprell there a little bit further behind, albeit he's got Fabian Sanchez and Elliot Court trying to play catch up to him, and Fabian Sanchez right now looking to go on the attack. Into that braking zone here, no change between them, although he does outbrake himself. That does not help him whatsoever, and Elliot Court will steal that place away. So a small mistake there, but Fabian Sanchez immediately giving it up, and that's the last thing you do want to do. As Rafa Ultimor after his spin tries to catch up to Arturo Biorga with only what is 2/3 of the lap remaining, and you see Xavier Sadav in the rear of the picture. But looking back up to Nobles, I think the battle for 6th place has finally come to an end, or at least he'll be hoping it's done so. But meanwhile, at the very front of the field, with no battle against him all the way through the race, Jaden Callaway starts at the pole, and he's going to bring on home the first win of the season in dominant style for On The Limit Motorsport, ahead of Adam Merchant, runner-up in this race, and it will be a further 8.5 seconds back before we do see Antonio Bianchi round off the podium for our first race of the season here at the Red Bull Ring, ahead of David Schreikenec, who on his debut, well, he's going to finish in 4th place. In fact, no, he's given up the place there to Jace Matt and Robert Nobles. Well, he's decided, I think he's playing the game of take pole position for race number 2, so Schreikenec's being a bit tactical there. So Jace Matt takes 4th ahead of Robert Nobles, with Ray Aguilar coming home in 7th, just missing out on the pole position for race 2. Matthew Devine is 8th ahead of Gareth McAllister, and Craig Brick completes your top 10. We've still got a few drives to finish this race, including Matt Sproul in his debut race, 16th, 9 that he had a chance at top 10 in this one, but a late mistake in the race cost him time. But keep your eyes out for race number 2. I suspect he's only learning more and more as he gets used to the car. And we'll finish on a lap down then 20th place, the last of our finishers. It is going to be Esteban Marquez there with a bit of a struggle at the end of the race, but to be fair, it's only race number 1 of the season. We've got a grand total of 22 of them. There's plenty more to come. But as the field calms on down for a brief moment, we've still got plenty more racing in the tank, no doubt about it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, let's take you through those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, after an absolutely incredible opening 10 laps of racing for Season 18 of the League Zero Formula Series presented by INCA Salsa, from round number 1 here at the Red Bull Ring in the Spielberg town of Austria, Jaden Callaway, your winner then for On The Limit Motorsport. Indeed, what a way to stay off the season. But of course, he was the man who definitely started off his season very well in Season 17, but he couldn't quite make every single round. And understandably, you'd be thinking of the simple reason, the fact that if he's able to make the full season this time round, he could be a force to be reckoned with in the championship fight. However, 2.2 seconds ahead of Adam Merchant, the Squid Game Racing driver, we gained places and indeed settled for the runner-up spot, but he couldn't quite find a way to cut down the advantage that Callaway had. Antonio Bianchi third there for competition 51, although some would say he was lucky to pick up that spot given the contact between the two drivers of Finney Fitzsimmons and Elliot Rolls. He also had to be in the right place at the right time, and given the fact he was running in 5th place at the time, when actually would inherit that podium position, but to be fair, it's what it's good at doing, is staying right behind the leaders and waiting for them to make mistakes. The Canadian drivers then followed developed by Rodent GP's Jace Mayer. Switcher team, but he'll be absolutely ecstatic about the fact that he has represented his team well there. The top 5 on his first race for them this season. Head of Robert Nobles there, the privateer for MSR Green, taking 5th in the end of the number 2. Head of David Schreikeneck, who was looking to finish 4th. Minion gave up those 2 spots, a very tactical and a very risky call there. However, he will get away with it. He was on the inside, so therefore I don't think he'll be deemed to have driven dangerously. But the fact that he did decide to sacrifice that 4th place finish to start on pole by looks things for race number 2. Well, let's wait and see where he's able to bring home that win in the second race today, or at least a podium. Still, Ray Aguilar finishing in 7th there. The Squid Game Racing Giant enjoying some absolutely brilliant battle in action. And we're fighting hard with Matthew Devine for DDK XTH Jordan, and also Gareth McAllister just behind for Inca Chips Racing. He was only 2 tenths ahead of his teammate of Craig Brick, albeit the sister driver there of INCA Salsa Racing, we should really say. And then it was best of the rest for Elliot Court for DDK Racing ahead of Fabian Sanchez, competition 51, with Carlos Balanas in 13th ahead of Leo Domar, and Resano completing the top 15. And behind the Canadian driver was Matt Sproul there, who was chasing the top 10, but it wasn't to be, 16th instead. And then Arturo Mioga, Rafforti, and Xavier Zainav completed those who finished on the lead lap, with Esteban Marquez ran off your top 20, a lap down with damage picked up early on in the race. We do believe he was the one who was missing his front wing, in fact, and we can fill in the gaps now with regards to our understanding. He was the one who was missing his front wing going into Power Horse Bend on lap number 1. How he lost that front wing, we're not 100% certain, but we do know he was the one who did lose it, and if anybody has picked it up, we'll be sure to go down to him in the pit lane and get it signed by him, because I can tell you one thing, it may be worth something one day. And then we did see, of course, the retirement on lap number 4 for both Elliot Rolls and Finney Fitzsimmons as they had their coming together, and Austin Thomas sadly making a non-start the privateer in the number 14 due to a technical issue with the car. But ladies and gentlemen, we still got one more race to come, because that, of course, was our 10-lap sprint race. Up next is our 32-lap feature race. And well, race number 1 absolutely full of excitement from lights out to checker flag. Race number 2 is going to be very much the same, albeit of course it does have that all important strategic element that we need to consider. But right now we are in our warm-up period. We do have the best part of 5 minutes, or really we should say now 1.5 minutes or so, before we do see our drivers go at it again and in full anger as Matthew Devine practices pit lane entry there. And I think that's what several drivers will be doing at this point. If they are going out, they will be practicing getting into that pit lane, because the funny thing is, it's the one thing that as a driver you don't think about practicing as much as everything else. You practice the lap, you practice how you go fast around it, you practice your fuel load management, you practice your tyre management, you practice how to be consistent. But when you do ask your driver how you practice entering the pit lane and where the limiter line is, you'll be amazed at how many drivers, even the professionals, go, actually, that's the one thing I haven't practiced as much as I should have. And well, as soon as they start practicing it, they do feel a lot better about it immediately, just for the simple reason the last thing you want to do is get it completely wrong in terms of coming into the pits. But as we do see Leo Domar rolling his way on down the hill, well, coming on for round out now, he's definitely had a good start to the day. Finney Fitzsimmons, meanwhile, well, it wasn't the way he wanted race number 1 to go. And, well, if you think back to Phillip Island, where we opened up things in season 17, he really was the dominant force there. But here, it hasn't worked out. And it all went right in race number 1 at Phillip Island. It all went very wrong, if my memory serves me correctly, in race number 2, where the car was into the barrier before it even done 200 metres down the start-finish straight due to a huge altercation in the mid-pack. But here it's been an altercation between him and a DDK Racing driver on the opening race. So therefore, will it be the reverse theory here today, which is he should be coming through the field very quickly, and he's no stranger from coming from the back of the field to win a race. Many of you may remember at Road Atlanta last season, where he was involved in that early incident with Adam Merchant, if my memory serves me correctly, that sent him all the way to the back of the field, and he still won the race. Indeed, it was one of the most incredible drives we've seen. Well, we may see an incredible drive here, maybe not. The only way we're going to find out is by heading to the grid for race number 2. And the good news, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to, because it is time for our 32-lap feature race here at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And so, as our drivers make the way onto the grid for the final time today, this is how they're going to line up. We have the top 6 inverted from race number 1. It's David Schreikeneck who takes pole position there, the privateer. And well, it's a gamble, but it's paid off, it would seem. Robert Nobles will join him on the front row. And then we will see Jace Mayer for Rodent GP starting 3rd. And Tony Bianchi 4th alongside for competition 51, ahead of your top 2 from the previous race of Adam Merchant from Squid Game Racing and On The Limit Motorsports Jaden Callaway. Ray Aguilar starts in 7th there for Squid Game Racing, ahead of DDK XTH Jordan's Matthew Devine. Then we do have Gareth McAllister for INCA Chips Racing ahead of INCA Salsa Racing's Craig Brick, who round off the top 10. A good start today for both of them. Meanwhile, it was a bit of a struggling start for Elliott Court, who started from the pit lane, but to be fair, halved the deficit to the front of the field. He's now 11th for this one, and well, can he go all the way to become number 1 for DDK Racing? We will have to wait and see. Fabian Sanchez begins this race in 12th there for competition 51, ahead of Raccoon GP's Carlos Balanas, who we didn't get to see too much of the Mexican driver in race number 1. Perhaps we'll see a bit more of him in this one. Indeed, had a bit of a settled race. However, behind him, starting 14th will be Leo Domar for Rodent GP. And then we do have Renison Lowe starting 15th on that 8th row once again, with Matt Sparrow giving him company there in 16th place. Arturo Mioga for INCA Chips Racing, OTL Motorsports, Raf Orti, round off your 9th row of the grid. And then completing your top 20, it's going to be Xavier Zainav for Raccoon GP and Esteban Marquez for DDK XTH Jordan. And then starting from the very back of the field, it's going to be on the final full row of the grid after they're coming together in race number 1. Elliott Rolls for DDK Racing and the privateer Finney Fitzsimmons, and we do have Austin Thomas. Once again, I do believe with technical issues with the car, he'll be listed as starting 23rd, but he's not going to make it to the grid due to a technical issue with the car. And we are missing Raf Alti from the grid as well, ladies and gentlemen, so I wonder whether the Antarctican has had something go wrong for him. But without further ado, here come the lights for the second and final time today. They're all lined up, they're all itching to go, but who exactly is going to be winning this one? Well, it's going to be lights down, away we go here for the feature race, and as they roll the way up the hill, Triconnect there gets a brilliant start, but look at Antonio Bianchi immediately trying to go 3 wide into turn 1. It's not going to work there, has to back off as they roll the way on through, but a good attempt from him, and now onwards they go, 3 wide still. That's Aguilar right in the middle there. He does clear out a Merchant just about, but now can he clear Robert Noble's here? It's been one of the things he struggled with, is getting away past Robert Noble. Oh my good lord, up into the air. That's going to be all over the place. That car's gone left, it's gone right. That's Adam Merchant. He's galloping all over the road like a horse. My goodness there. Well, that's completely come out of the stable. Meanwhile, that's Antonio Bianchi being caught up, and that was at about 145 miles an hour, and when Tony Bianchi went to the barrier, meanwhile Adam Merchant decided to see where he could prance his way off to, and it was to the prairie in the grass in the end. But suddenly that's completely torpedoed them out the race. We did have a pit lane start for Rafalti due to a technical issue with the car, but he's got it fixed, and right now with all that, I don't know what else to make of it, ladies and gentlemen, other than absolute cinema. But as Jace Mayer comes down the hill, Jaden Callaway with him. Jace Mayer's had a good start, Callaway's had an absolute monster start, and unfortunately we had a big incident, no safety car by looks of things. How we are carrying on green flag racing, and how on earth nobody else got caught up in that incident other than Bianchi and what was none other than I do believe Adam Merchant. I will never know, I can tell you that, but one thing I can also tell you, the fact, absolute craziness that one, and when he's in to get a replay of that, Leo Domar, he's into the pit lane. I wonder if that's for a jump start potentially for the number 21 driver. We didn't quite see a jump start from him, but that car hits on through, but it does so. Well, on to lap number 2 we go. Triconnect running the way with this. Jason Mayer in second, but he's got Jaden Callaway looking for a move immediately here, going up the hill in towards what will be the kink. You can see there the marks on the road from the incident on lap number 1, and well, Jaden Callaway very quickly snaps his way around the outside there. Jace Mayer up into second place, Mayer down to 3rd, Robert Noble sits in 4th, head of Ray Aguilar in 5th, then Matthew Devine sits in at 6th, ahead of Elliott Court, followed by Finney Fitzsimmons, Fabian Sanchez and Craig Brick, exactly where he started in 10th place, but right now enjoying a comfortable run here with Gareth McAllister best the rest behind, and Matt Sparrell, he's gained 4 places since the start. He is on a move, but meanwhile, speaking of a move, as Esteban Marquez, with a new front wing on the car since race number 1, and Carlos Balanas there being made to fall down a position. Marquez gains another place, now up into 13th place. They started 20th up to 13th, but he's making good headway on this one as Balanas and Redison Lowe get ready to do battle here. And Redison Lowe running a different livery on the machine here for this season. As he comes down here, the Canadian driver right now rolling his way from left into right, looking quick, no doubt about it, and getting ready to potentially put up a fight. Will he be able to do so here as he comes in towards Jochen Rindt Bend? I think too far back for this one, and therefore now the game plan is going to be about playing a bit more strategy. There's a lot of dirty air that just causes the car to understeer wide, and we're so difficult there. These medium speed bends are the worst ones for understeer when it comes to the dirty of another car in front, and particularly when they're off camber as well, because every little bit of understeer you feel is amplified by being off camber, because naturally the car wants to fall down the hill. It wants to understeer wide because that's the road goes, as Resinlo then finds the sausage curve there, so it's not going right for him at all at the moment. Oh, that's contact there, and that was contact between Nobles and Mayer. Mayer being sent a very long way out there. Oh my god, look, they're all coming together. Cars stuck together there, and that's giving Aguilar and Devine together into the barrier, and it's all in pieces for these two. I don't know how that started, but I can tell you it's ended, and they're not going to be having a happy conversation in the pit lane there. Oh, and the car goes round. That is going to be Robert Nobles going for a spin coming out of turn number 4. So Nobles goes round there, and I wonder if there was also some damage to the car by what happened at turn number 3 on the exit there, but he gets it back together, and suddenly for the number 2 driver, well, He brings the car onto the road, and he's going to have to think to himself right now what's next to do, other than just simply try to calm down and get it back all in one piece. But will he be able to here? Does he have to come in for repair work on the car? Because this is suddenly going to bring a lot of drivers up the order, and what we have effectively lost another 2 to 3 drivers as a result of that. And we can see right now the field is absolutely thirsty here. Indeed, it's almost as if they're bloodthirsty, or point thirsty, we should say here, if we want to make it relevant to racing. And as they make the way up the hill, well, nobody's been sucked driver points at the moment, it would seem, as they roll the way in towards that braking zone of what will be at lap number 4. And what is Jace Matt, Craig Brick, Carol McAllister, Matt Sproul all thinking right now? Well, they're all thinking one thing only, is they're all feeling very pointsy as they roar the way up the hill. And Sproul here in the number 5. Well, he's got to look round on the outside in no overtake button on. This is simply going to be done on sheer gumption and pace of the car. Do see Jason Matt side by side with Craig Brick. Brick loses it under exit, and he's just getting the power down too soon into the barrier. And turn number 3 claims another driver. Well, turns 3 and 4 definitely the cause you do not want to make mistakes at today, it would seem. And well, they've claimed several drivers so far, and we're not even a further way through this race, and we have already seen the departure of what is approximately a quarter of the field. Well, we've lost one car due to technical issues from the very outset, but otherwise everybody else, well, things right now have been as a result of incidents on the opening few laps, of which we will get some replays of. We promise you that in due course, but right now, with everything going on here, we can't afford to step away for a brief moment. Looking further back, Adam Merchant, he has been to the pit lane. He has had the repair work done to the car, and I believe they've also put a quick little bit of fuel in there. And that was Merchant, of course, after that incident between himself and Antonio Bianchi, and how on earth he got away with that incident, whereas Bianchi did not. Well, your guess is as good as mine, ladies and gentlemen. Answers on the postcard, please. But as he comes down that hill right now, the number 4 of Merchant definitely used up all its 9 lives at a single instance there. And right now, I think he won't ever want to walk on a road as a black cat, or indeed walk under a ladder. But right now, climbing up the ladder, that is going to be Jalen Callaway at the inside of Shrikeneck. And Jalen Callaway now into lead, looking to make it 2 from 2 here today. And I think with that move done now, if he can break away and get that gap up to a second quite quickly, I think this is Callaway's race to lose at this point. That's not to be unfair with regards to Shrikeneck. He has proven to be quite quick here, and that was the confidence he had in himself as to why he demoted himself down to 6th place at the end of the sprint race. He felt as though he would be able to at least achieve a podium in this one. But right now, well, I don't know if he's got an answer to Callaway's pace, because Callaway per lap in the sprint race was the best part of half a second quicker, and he's going to try and work on that when he can. Place change, that is Adam Merchant on the inside of Elliott Rolls for 13th, so they swap things around. Meanwhile, Raf Orti trying to make a move on Leo Domar. As they come out of AMSAG, he will get it done initially, but now as they head down the hill, here comes Delmar looking back up the inside. The Frenchman goes for it late on the brakes, and Orti there tries to go for the switchback, but finds out too soon that Sonny Delmar is still there, so it doesn't quite work out for him. However, he's going to try and go for the run to the inside of Power Horse Bend, and he decides, no, it's too long a run, it's not going to work. So therefore, they do swap the places around, and Delmar up into 15th place and will at least hold it for now. But looking back from the rear of Jace Man's car, as we do see the Rodent GP car aspire to move forward, much like the sponsorship on the rear wing. And well, coming up close behind him, there's Gareth McAllister, the INCA Salsa racing car, overtake button on. Mayer here doesn't really need to fight this then, because there's going to be no way to really beat him, especially when the INCA Salsa cars on the inside to why they enter, and in the end that is going to be McAllister getting past. So smooth move from him there, and all overtaken as quick as that. And as he tries to make the one down the hill, it does seem to be one of the situations whereby, well, Mayer, as to being passed, is now getting ready to go back on the attack, but that's not going to work out, as Matt Sproul, meanwhile, just stays and plays watch as they roll the one now in towards the left-hander at turn number 6. But Sproul here waiting for an opportunity. I suspect what he wants to do here is see exactly how they're all playing out. What's the order of these drivers? What's the pecking order? And where he can perhaps peck one down. And that target will be Esteban Marquez firstly. And credit where it's due to number 95 driver. Remember, he started in 20th place after his miserable end to race number 1. And right now, we're showing that what's happened in race number 1 has not upset him whatsoever. Albeit that's a bit of an upset there. If you're wondering what we're talking about, well, you may not have seen it from that camera angle. Went very wide at turn number 9. He rode onto the exit curb, and the actual under tray of the car bottomed out on that. He's got to be careful. That's going to do some damage to the cars. Meanwhile, Robert Nobles was towed to the pits. We're not quite sure why, but Sonny, we've also had Renison Lowe towed to the pit lane as well. I wonder if the two of them had coming together. So Sonny almost down to half a field now as they head up the hill, but Matt Sproul looking one way then the other. Marquez going defensive, and Sproul backs off immediately there. Lets Marquez try to outbrake himself in towards turn number 3, and Sproul's going to try and get a better run down the hill as we ride on board with the British driver here. And right now in the number 5, we're looking to go on the attack, but is this going to work here? Looking left, looking right, holds his racing line for now, and just simply stays there. He's not going to be able to make a move at this time. But as he looks to try and make a move, well, we're going to make a move back in time, ladies and gentlemen, and take a look back at some of the big moments from the start of this race in the opening 7 laps or so. And well, firstly, of course, we need to take a look back at that race start and what exactly happened in the run-up towards turn number 3. So this is when we did go green flag racing. The revs were absolutely screaming from all of our cars. And when we did go, those lights did go out. And for Schreikenett, a brilliant start there. Robert Nobles, meanwhile, stalling almost at the start. And look at that, immediately come off Bianchi. And then realising he was a bit aggressive in that procedure. So he decided not to go too far to the wall in the end. Bianchi lost all his momentum. Aguilar, meanwhile, right through the middle. But this is where things got interesting. So in the end, Bianchi just behind with Adam Merchant. Now, Bianchi was clear, came into the middle of the road. Oh, I see what's happened there. And Adam Merchant just going flying over the top. And well, what's essentially happened is that Bianchi's come across there to try and thread the needle between cars. Adam Merchant was on a similar line at the same time. Meanwhile, we come back to what happened to Xavier Zainab at the start. After he went green flag racing, well, it was a slow-moving car. Oh, that explains what happened there. Xavier Zainab bouncing once, bouncing twice, hop, skip and a jump. That's not the way you want to start a race at all. So Arturo Mayorga had a very slow start there, and Xavier Zainab didn't even get 200 metres. But then we did have, of course, this big moment for Arturo Mayorga, as he also went green flag racing. So after that contact, in fact, the car, he had to stop it shortly after. It was going nowhere fast. But the Adam Merchant Bianchi moment, this was on board with Adam Merchant as he headed up the hill. And as he did so, well, you can see there's Bianchi. He's going to try and thread into the middle of the road, and Merchant's there. What he's done, I think he's misunderstood the overlap between the two of them. I think Bianchi thought he was clear. He may not have actually got the warning from his spotter, and Adam Merchant, unfortunately, in the right place at the wrong time to help trigger that contact. I think it will be considered a racing incident, or the blame may go to Antonio Bianchi there for coming across when he wasn't perhaps clear. But it's such a tricky one, that one. I wouldn't want to be the stewards on that. That's a nightmare incident. But the most important thing is both drivers seem to be okay, although Merchant's car carrying on, I don't know how. Matthew Devine, meanwhile, this is what happened to him. And the DDK-TH Jordan driver make his way onwards. And as he did so, well, what exactly happened here? This was the three-wide man that all ended up in bits and bobs, as both drivers there having an absolute huge moment into the barrier. Can we get a better on board there, what exactly happened? And the answer is yes, we can. This was the look for other cameras. So Elbo's out there, as Jason Marvin sent wide, and then Sonny, Robert Nobles at this point on the outside. He's run away from that, and well, it looks as though there Divine and Aguilar have just had a coming together. The cars are hooked together, and Jace Mayer's car just not going quick whatsoever. But meanwhile, we also had this for Robert Nobles, just a little bit late on lap number 3. This was Nobles coming down towards turn number 4. Looking up the inside, Finley Fitzsimmons there, not going to make it work, but Nobles in the end outbrakes himself, goes to the gravel and takes a trip, and that's what sent him spinning around there. So, taking the gravel and trying to get the power down, that's never going to work in a 550 brake horsepower car. But after that, on lap number 4, we had this for Craig Brick. Brick there, making his way on the inside, battling hard with Jace Mayer on that inside line, but unfortunately then realises he tried to get the power down. There's dust, there's dirt on that inside, and the traction is nowhere near as good, and that's why the car went spinning. But then we had this for Renison Lowe and Robert Nobles. But this was Renison Lowe on lap number 6, so he made his way through Power Horse and then through turn number 7, and went a bit wide. Rear of the car stepped loose, went to the gravel there, came back on. Now, as he did come back on, what exactly's gone wrong here? There's, oh, hold up a second. Oh my good lord, and in the end, that's panic there, kicking in for both drivers, but in particular Renison Lowe. I think all he needed to do was keep the car to the right there. He wasn't a path, and unfortunately Robert Nobles coming streaming into the back of him. This is what it looked like on board Robert Nobles. At this point, he's probably thinking, right, where's that car going? It goes right, goes left, and unfortunately there, I think Nobles, well, I think he was trying to do the right thing. I think, unfortunately, Renison Lowe panicked in the moment, and both drivers, in a way, panicked, and that's what led to the contact between the two of them. But a nightmare instant, and back to your live race we come. But goodness me, ladies and gents, what a whole series of events there over our opening third of racing. And the great news is, of course, we've still got plenty more racing to come, even if things have calmed down a little bit. Now, whilst we have been away, we have had a change of what is second place driver. Finley Fitzsimmons has found his way past David Schreikenett. Now, Schreikenett, I think, was just overtaken, from what I'm hearing in my ear, by Fitzsimmons. There was no major incident or off track for Schreikenett as far as we're aware, and therefore Schreikenett now being caught up to by the regulars who have proven to be perhaps quicker drivers. Elliot Court being the next man on the march. Esteban Marquez, meanwhile, he's battling here with Jace Mayer. Mayer trying to make sure this move sticks. Meanwhile, Marquez trying to come back at him after a run wide at turn number 1 and a slowdown for, what is that, run wide. Well, right now these two drivers are wide up the hill and roaring the way onwards. It's going to be side by side all the way heading up towards turn number 4. We're getting ready to go into those braking zones right now. Well, Mayer still trying to go around the outside. A classic racing between these two. Very respectful racing, and getting ready to go all the way in towards that left-hander at turn number 6. Right now, it's going to be Jace Mayer, who does fall behind and couldn't quite hold it too wide all the way into the Power Horse curve. I think they're deciding that actually it's pretty better to back off rather than continue that fight, because otherwise they're just losing time and tyre life. Carlos Balnas, meanwhile, we didn't really get to talk too much about him in race number 1, but he's enjoying a much better race number 2 here. Currently running in 10th place after his 13th place finish in the first race of the day. As he comes on down the hill, well, his game plan right now is quite a simple one, and it is simply just stay out of trouble and keep the car on the tarmac. It does sound a bit obvious, but at the end of the day, that's the best way to get points. If you finish the race and don't end up finishing outside the top 12, you're guaranteed to get some points in the feature race, even if it's just 1 for 12th place. But of course, the higher up you finish, the more you're going to get, and it does grow very gradually. Meanwhile, David Schreikenett, he's got Elliott Court for close company now. As Elliott Court definitely using the push-to-pass button there to make some quick moves. Schreikenett, meanwhile, well, he does have his push-to-pass button ready if he wants to use it, but I think right now his thought process is, what's the point in using it? As we look back from the rear of his car, and there you can see the number 23 staying close to DDK Racing Team. Will he be looking for a move here coming down the hill? The answer is no, and I think Court is now finding out, much like many drivers found out so far today, that as soon as you get within half a second of the car in front, suddenly that dirty air becomes absolutely abhorrent. A bit Schreikenett there, kicking up some dust as well, trying to get some sand in his rival's eye, although I think the actual intention there was the fact he carried too much speed, to be fair. But as he rolls his way down in towards another lap, Schreikenett right now feeling some pressure out there. And remember what we said earlier on about Finney Fitzsimmons, the fact that he started all the way back in 22nd place, where he's already into 2nd place here, and his game plan now is to try and chase down Jaden Callaway. Never rule this man out of the podium as a minimum, if not a race win. Indeed, he is the Max Verstappen, if you will, of this grid, in the fact that no matter where he starts, well, he's normally going to be finishing somewhere towards that podium if he gets it right. Meanwhile, change of place there for Verve. That's going to be Court and Schreikenett swapping things around. Schreikenett giving up the position there to Court. And indeed, Elliott Court had to pick up the pace coming out of turn 1, but Schreikenett making no major effort to defend it. And I think this might be more about simply just staying in the draft there. And Fabian Sanchez is coming up behind. And well, right now Fabian Sanchez close. Not close enough as he comes down the hill. But definitely looking to be a driver right now who could be chasing his own podium here today. And given how race number 2 has started, where he started all the way back in 12th place after what was a dismal race number 1, I wouldn't be surprised here if he's feeling confident with this one. And of course, all the action has calmed down to a degree, and we are now more into the strategic part of this race, whereby as we are almost at the halfway point, drivers are now going to be thinking about, do they go for the undercut, do they split the race directly in the middle, or do they go for the overcut instead? Normal theory would say that we do see a mixture, where some drivers do decide to pit early, and in the pits, given the fact that fuel and tyres are changed and done at the same time, what we normally do see is that fuel goes in. Obviously, they need the fuel to get to the end unscathed on fuel capacity, but what we also normally see is that the new set of tyres does go on, and those new tyres, they are worth quite a bit of time for the first 5 to 6 laps, or at least the first couple of laps, depending on the length of the circuit. Here at the Red Bull Ring, they will be worth a bit more pace for about 5 to 6 laps, but after that, those tyres normally do start to lose their edge a little bit as you start to really rubber them in, and well, they're still better than older tyres, but they no longer have as pronounced a pace gap by comparison. So it's always a thought, but the downside, of course, of coming in early is the fact you have a much longer second stint, and therefore you'll be using a set of tyres for a bit longer by comparison. So it's all trade-offs there, and it's risk versus reward. But Sproul right now, he's thinking of how he can make his way into 6th place here. Well, he's got closer and closer to McAllister on the previous lap. The gap now between these two starting to come down very nicely. So Sproul here, I think, building that confidence. Schreikenett, meanwhile, knowing that Sanchez is growing a looming threat in his rearview mirror. And I wouldn't be surprised here if Schreikenett is getting ready to have to potentially defend. But does he need to go defensive, or does he decide to try and beat this on strategy? What would he do at this point? Well, I think the thought process has got to be as he puts the push to pass button on. I think that tells you everything we need to know here. He doesn't want to fall any further to Sanchez. I think he feels as though he can beat Sanchez, but the problem he's got is the fact that he's only got the distant draft of Court's car. It's 1.2 seconds away. And by comparison, Sanchez is a lot closer, 7 to 8 tenths away. He's going to be feeling a bit more of a toe effect. Sproul here trying to make a move onwards, but he's not really using that push to pass button at the moment. I think Sproul is saving it all for the second stint here. I think he's being very tactical about it and deciding that actually it's better to see how far he can come up through the field in the first stint, and then have all the push to pass available in the second stint, where he'll know where he is and knows where he is battling for, and therefore he can really be a surprise to drivers. This is a very different approach here as he comes down the hill. And we ride on board with Sproul in the number 5. I think this is a very smart tactical call here, and when it is your debut, you may want to do something different. You don't want to really reveal your hand here or do what everyone else is doing. Not because he's trying to trend set or anything along those lines, but he's really trying to get a gauge right now of how exactly things play out. What do drivers actually do? I wouldn't be surprised if he's perhaps looked back at a couple of the broadcasts on the previous season as well, just to see exactly how the racing has gone, when people have been using the push to pass button, and also what the strategic approach is as a bit of a slide down entry into the Ockenrint bend for McAllister. McAllister struggling a little bit on these older tyres right now. Meanwhile, Sproul just keeping it nice and clean every step of the way in that number 5. And definitely watching closely here and waiting for the right time. Esteban Marquez, he is closing quite rapidly. He has just taken 9/10 of a second out of both cars in front of that previous lap. So he's getting ready to become involved in this one. But if I was going to put my bets on right now, I think Sproul here being 2/10 behind. Well, he's using the draft there, looking up the inside in towards AMS AG. It's going to be a smooth move, but does he get it done? The answer is no, because as McAllister gets the traction down there, a little bit of power oversteer. And now here comes Sproul. He used the push to pass at this point, so he's been saving it until he gets fully alongside. It's a cool move, and as he comes on down here, does he secure the move as cool as a cucumber? The answer is yes. They're up the inside of McAllister and moves into 6th place. So Sproul there making waves, and Esteban Marquez getting closer and closer with these two battling. And with the fact now the gap to Marquez is only 1.5 seconds, I would say that Matt Sproul here might be able to break away, unless he decides now to come into the pit lane. But if he was to do so, where would it put him? We suspect it put him between this man of Leo Damar in 13th place, who's chasing after Elliott Rolls, and also the 14th place driver here, the last of our runners of Raf Orti, who of course had some difficulty earlier on in the race. Well, he's here now. He's still trying to make up some time versus Del Mar. And in terms of Ortiz pace, well, he is definitely right now showing considerable pace to match the top 10 here. So don't count him out just yet. He's still got quite a gap to overcome, however, of 8 seconds to the next car. But nobody decides to come into the pits yet for the strategic stop. Everyone's staying out a bit longer. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is due to the fact this field hasn't really broken up too much at the moment. Yes, we have got sizable gaps between cars, as you can see from the track map in the top right corner of your screen. But there's not this absolutely definitive gap, and nobody wants to be the first driver to pit, and nobody wants to give up their hands. That's the problem. Hold up a second. That's not how a super-performing car should look. That was Elliott Rolls there all crumpled up there. That car looked as though it had gone into the wrecking factory. Well, I'm not quite sure what exactly's happened there. We'll get a replay of that when we can, but that's gone very well for DDK Racing, and suddenly, well, it's only one car left in the race now for the DDK Racing team, their main team, and it's Elliott Courts, number 23. Well, that is absolute disaster there for Rolls, as being our new fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 11.946 for Jaden Callaway. Callaway right now is not turning the wick down at all at the very front of the field. Finney Fitzsimmons responds to a 1 minute 12.042, so only a 10th behind there. The top two are definitely trying to raise the bar here as we get closer and closer towards that pit stop. Adam Merchant, meanwhile, on the recovery drive still. And after the damage he picked up with that huge contact of Antonio Bianchi on the opening lap, well, here we can see closing up to the back of Balanas, the number 83 driver under pressure here, but Adam Merchant also having to try and get a little bit closer as we ride on board the nose camera. He roars his way up the hill towards turn number 1. Now I'll take a quick look at the outside. Oh my goodness. Well, that, I was going to say to the inside there, and Adam Merchant lose it by being so aggressive on entry into the corner. The rear of the car says no, and that's not because he's got damage to the car there. It is for the simple reason, I think with the snap from inside to outside, the rear became unsettled, and then trying to carry all that speed and realising that Carlos Balanos was not going anywhere near as quick as he was hoping. I think Adam Merchant in the end foxing himself into a mistake of his own doing. Leo Damar makes his way on past that up into length. So Merchant's now got another place to gain. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of this lap he does come in to put on a new set of tyres, because those tyres are definitely going to be feeling very old now by comparison to how they started this race. But with that, we take a look back at that moment, plus a couple of others, as we take a look at what exactly happened to firstly Elliott Rolls only a lap ago. So this is Elliott Rolls heading in towards turn number 1. Took the sausage curl quite high. Got the power down. The car snake one way then the other. It hit the barrier, however, on the outside. And then ricocheting across the road. And somehow, well, Leo Damar was able to avoid it. This is what it looked like from Del Mar's perspective. So you see his Rolls goes round the corner. And you'll see the car snaps to the left. And then suddenly it comes across the road. And will thankfully able to hold it to the left-hand side. He had plenty of reaction time there. We thought it was a bit closer than that. And we had this only a lap later for Adam Merchant. Now this is Merchant getting closer and closer to the back of Carlos Balanas, and he looked one way then the other, and I think they're being caught out with the fact Balanas not carrying as much speed, and Merchant just losing the rear there coming through turn number 1. I think the rear just came unsettled like a pendulum, and he was able to get back together there without hitting the DRS board, but definitely took the blue cone down there, and well, the poor cone will need to be reset at some point. But with that, back to your live racing we go. And as we do, well, there's Adam Merchant carrying on right now, but still more time in this race for him. And indeed, everybody, has anybody come into the pits yet? The answer is no. Indeed, we are still going deeper and deeper into this race. Everybody is seeing how far they can push the wick at the moment. I think that's understandable. Ray Aguilar still in the pit lane meanwhile. So look out my Conte booth window, as is Antonio Bianchi and Arturo Mayorga's cars. So still a couple of cars in there with extensive repair work, and the damage to those cars definitely huge. But meanwhile, Fabian Sanchez and David Schreikenec swapping places on a round. So Sanchez gets some pass there. Schreikenec does not fight that too hard. And I wonder here whether potentially Schreikenec is really now thinking to himself, actually, in retrospect, given the pace of everybody here, I might as well just let the places go and make sure that I pick up some good points today rather than fight too hard, given the fact we've still got just under half the race remaining. Everyone definitely putting a good job together here in terms of this opening stint. Elliott Court, they're just in front. And Court right now, in terms of his relative pace, he is matching Fitzsimmons lap to lap. He's not matching Callaway, however. Callaway has just set an even faster lap pace, 1 minute 11.83. So Jaden Callaway right now, he's definitely pushing harder and harder. He's heading into qualifying lap territory at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if Callaway's planning to pit soon. Well, meanwhile, Schreikenec here all over the back of Sanchez. It might have been a tactical call just to let him go past. And the idea being that he's then going to try and make his way back ahead through pit stop strategy. Well, it would be a smart move to do so, as Elliott Court, well, he's the first then to make his way in for a strategic stop. And as he comes on down there, we may only have 13 cars on the road now, but to be fair, as Fabian Sanchez also comes in, Schreikenec stays out there. So pit stops come about, and they've been able to go 20 laps on the opening tank of fuel. I suspect some drivers will go a little bit deeper in this one, but Court and Sanchez going for the undercut here. For Court, it's going to give him security for third. Sanchez, meanwhile, this is to try and make sure that Schreikenec cannot come back at him for what will be that 5th place. But we will see what's to be as they're already leaving the pit lane. Balanos into the pit lane. So is Del Mar as well. So Elliott Court heading on out, heads on the exit. A tight pit lane exit there as it runs in parallel to turn number 1. It's its own version of turn 1, if you will. Jace Mayer coming out behind there. Now, will Mayer look to make an overtake here on the DDK Racing Drive, knowing, of course, that he is yet to pit. So, therefore, this will not help him. The answer is yes, he is going to look around the outside here. Mayer's going to go for it. He's going to try and help out the Raccoon GP team. And we're looking around the outside and back to the inside. That's not going to work. Court does have to go defensive. That's not ideal for the number 23 driver because he's on a cold set of tyres at the moment. So, therefore, he's going to have to quickly heat them up aggressively, in fact, to the point he may take some life out of them. And there's a look up the inside by Mayer. Couldn't quite get the move done there, but he's definitely proving to be a bit of a thorn in the side of the DDK Racing Drive Elliott Court. But Court finally does clear him there, coming into the Power Horse Bend. Callaway into the pit lane. Finney Fitzsimmons in. Schreikenec comes on in as well. They're all piling in now, so the fuel tank could only go 20 or 21 laps. So a bit of fuel saving. It could do the extra lap, it would seem. Matt Sproul, he decides to come on in there. Goes a bit wide at Jochen Rinben, but just about gets in with the pit entry line. So a bit of a hesitation there. Perhaps it was going to be... Oh! Going to speed to the back there of Sproul's car. That is Gareth McAllister. Sproul taking it nice and easy to the pit lane. McAllister thinking that he could come in a lot quicker than that. There's pieces everywhere, both cars. I wouldn't be surprised now they'll both get to their pit boxes, but those cars right now are going to spend a lot more time being serviced in the pit lane. That is not ideal whatsoever. And suddenly, what's looking to be a good race of both of them is now all in bits in the pit lane, at least for the teams, unless they can put the cars back together. Schreikenec comes out, and that's ahead of Fabian Sanchez there, so it's worked out for Schreikenec, and he did save some fuel as well. He managed to have a quite quick pit stop by comparison. A second was saved in the pit lane, and Schreikenec right now ahead of Sanchez, Adam Merchant behind. Adam Merchant on the recovery drive here, but remember that Merchant has still yet to come into the pit lane for a strategic stop. He's visited already for repair work, and they've also done splash and dash. That's why he's able to go these extra laps. However, he has still got to get the job done with regards to pit stops. So that's going to put him further back. Leo Delmar, meanwhile, behind Carlos Balanos and Jason Madge is behind, so they've all now pitted. So we've got a fight on for 9th place. Sproul has emerged, it should be pointed out. McAllister, meanwhile, is still being serviced in the pit lane. So McAllister's car taking the absolute brunt of the damage there by comparison. We'll get a replay of that shortly as to what exactly happened. A big shock, that one, no doubt about it. And in the end, it all went wrong for Gareth McAllister and also for Matt Sproul. And, well, both drivers, thankfully, A-OK. But Sproul's out there, and I think still the team doing a lot of work on McAllister's car. And, well, I wouldn't be surprised the INCA Chips racing car is going to go a lap down at this race. It did look as though a lot came off. Adam Murch into the pit lane off camera. Carlos Balanos, meanwhile, having to hold Leo Delmar behind as a lot of cloud comes over here. And we ride on board with your number 21. The Rodent GP driver right now getting closer and closer with every corner turned. Is he going to be able to look for a move here coming in towards the right hand? We see a lot of gravel there that's been kicked up off the road in towards turn number 8. Coming down the hill in towards 9 and 10. Delmar there deciding to use all the runoff area. He's going to use the 1X to do that, an instant point. That's legal, and now going up towards what will be turn 1. He's only got a call to his overtake button left, so therefore he's got to be quite sparing with using this as he comes through turn 1. Bellinat and Mayer behind. And Jace Mayer at this point, I suspect, looking for an opportunity to also get himself involved. He has got his push to pass active, so therefore right now it does seem as though the Raccoon GP cars both looking to go on the attack, heading up the hill in towards the braking zone. Will he go in? The answer is going to be no, not quite. He's going to sit back there, and Balanos in the end making sure that he doesn't lose 2 from the team. Indeed, he only loses the 1 place for now. But Schreikenec, meanwhile, looks to try and break away from Fabian Sanchez. Sanchez still with him. The cloud has come over the circuit. No sign of rain in the forecast, it should be pointed out. And don't adjust your TV set at the moment. Don't worry, it's not as though your brightness has gone down. It's because so much cloud has come over, and our cameras only have a certain amount of brightness and exposure to them. But Connect definitely under what is a bit of pressure here and feeling quite exposed himself for that fourth place, with Sanchez looking quicker, particularly as he gets closer and closer in that draft. But with that, we take a quick look back in time at what exactly happened in the pit lane between Max Sproul and Gareth McAllister. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is said replay of the incident. So this was on board with Gareth McAllister as he made his way in. So you'll see there's Matt Sproul off in the distance. Sproul comes in, a bit of a late reaction there to come into the pit lane. McAllister comes on down the hill, full attack here and getting ready for limiter line. And well, you can see there, Sproul had already backed off. McAllister was not expecting that whatsoever. And well, and then Gareth McAllister coming in absolutely blazing hot, but a bit too hot there for the car in front. And well, I think that's Matt Sproul's inexperience perhaps of doing the pit lane in a Super Formula car, and McAllister in with experience, and the two have met together right in the midst of it all. But unfortunately for McAllister, losing the front right wheel and suspension arm, that's why he's had to spend so long in the pit lane by comparison, and that's why it's hurt him so much. We also had this for Raf Orti on lap number 21. After his pit stop, and I think this is where all the gravel has come from coming in towards turn number 8's exit. Indeed, a big side loop. Oh, goodness me, a 360 pirouette there, and that's where all the gravel has come from. And the on the limit motorsport driver definitely on the limit and going well beyond the limit, it would seem, but thankfully getting back onto the circuit within time, but bringing that gravel with him, and that explains the story. With that, it's back to your live racing we come. And as we do, there's not too much time left in this race now. Indeed, this has been a race that has been completely topsy-turvy in some big moments now. There's some big names falling by the wayside, and also some new stars really started to shine. Speaking of which, Try Connect one of them. Also Sproul, despite the damage to the car, he's still ahead of Adam Merchant. Merchant did take his pit stop on lap 22. His strategic stop there, so he's made 2 trips to the pit lane now, and hopefully he won't have to make a third. Otherwise, this race has gone very wrong for him. But Sproul has now got the worry, which is that Adam Merchant is looking threateningly close, and Merchant still does have his push to pass available. You can see that there with a flashing green halo above where the driver sits in the cockpit. Right now for Sproul, is there going to be a move? Yes, it is. Adam Merchant goes up the inside, and Sproul at this point doesn't really have a means of coming back at him there. Looks for the switch back, but unfortunately, Adam Merchant, that is the sign of a driver who is able to know exactly where to make the move and exactly how to try and break away. Well, it's no surprise there when the man who was chasing his third title last season, a 2-time champion, make it look like clockwork there. But that's not to be unfair to Matt Sproul. In the fact, he's definitely delivering a good race here. And even if he only takes his 8th place now with some solid points, and he can always build upon his first experience in round number 1. Remember, there's another 10 rounds after this one. And Sproul definitely looking as though he's getting quicker and quicker already out there as he familiarises himself with the run of form. But meanwhile, the man who's the quickest of the ball out there, and Jaden Callaway, that fastest lap being a 1 minute 11.83. And right now, this man is most certainly looking to be absolutely in control. An 8.5 second gap to Finney Fitzsimmons. Fitzsimmons, to be fair, his fastest lap 1 minute 12.04 by comparison. Here is the MSR Purple Privateer. And the problem he's got at the moment, the fact he's not really gaining, he's not really losing. And Elliott caught a bit further back by comparison is matching him time for time. Well, the last couple of laps have not been anywhere near as quick from Court. And I think, if anything, right now he might be just simply seeing this race out. Now, he has had to find his way past Raf Orti, who you can see there in the rear of the picture. Not that I suspect that Orti has proved to be a problem there, given the blue flag procedure, which all drivers do have to obey when they're about to go a lap down. I think Court at this moment maybe thinks to himself, you know what, the third place spot on the podium is the best I can do today. And after starting from the pit lane to make his way into 11th for this race at the end of race number 1, and then to come on to 3rd, well, to be fair, doing what DDK Racing do best, which is when they find themselves in penalties, well, by the end of the day, they'll find themselves inside the top 5, if not on the podium. Was all about Elliott Rose doing that last season, and this season, well, finally our first round, it's Elliott Court having to do it after his altercation with Adam Merchant at the Circuit Spa Francorchamps in our season finale of season 17. Fabian Sanchez here, he's still on the back of Try Connect. And coming out, well, it does seem as though right now he can get close, but can he get in an attacking position here for competition 51? Coming down the hill, looking left, looking right, he's going to try and go all the way around the outside here. Is this going to work? He does go for the switch back there, and Try Connect goes a little bit deep, but he go defensive here, coming from 5 in towards 6. Dancing with a Try Connect right now, where he's being put on awkward lines, and Sanchez here goes for another switch back here. Sanchez really proved to be smart about this one, but Try Connect there does not give it. He holds his ground, holds it around the outside of turn number 7. Lovely bit of defensive driving there for our number 7 driver, and that's why he's definitely proven to be a very clever driver at this one. But rolling the way down the hill once again now. It is looking close, it's looking furious and fast between them, but it does seem as though Try Connect, for everything that his rival can do, he can do as well. But bouncing off the exit curb there at turn number 10, he's got to be so careful, that car, on the absolute limit of what it's able to do adhesion-wise. And well, the rear suspension of that car is not going to be feeling too great after bouncing around like that. But right now, push to pass button on there, trying to break the gap to Fabian Sanchez. I think Sanchez is getting into his mind a little bit because he's not doing anything in return there to try and put the push to pass on. We're going up the hill as we do see a new fastest lap of the race of 1 minute 11.798. That's from Adam Merchant. So he's, oh, and he goes wrong there for Schreikenec coming out of turn number 3. The mistake that struck Craig Brick much earlier in the race, and for Schreikenec it goes on around, and that's going to be a car towing to the pits there for Schreikenec. I think his race will be done and dusted. Such a small mistake on the verge of a top 5, and for Schreikenec it's going to be an absolute gut punch after 6th place in race number 1. He was looking to make sure it was the first top 5 of the season, race number 2, and it has all come undone. And I won't be surprised we're not going to be seeing that car for the remainder, but he will be classified as 12th, given the fact he will be classified as a finisher in this race, given that he will be within 4 laps of the race winner, Jaden Callaway. So therefore, in fact, 5 laps of the race winner, Jaden Callaway, and I think he will be eligible just about there for the points, although don't quote me on that, as Callaway here, Meehl just carries on absolutely unfazed and unabated by anybody. As he makes his way onwards, and with only 3 more laps to go after this one, let's take a look back at what exactly happened to Schreikenec only moments ago. So this was the number 7 driver for DDKTH Jordan heading in towards turn number 3, and as he got the power down there on the exit curb, the rear of the car just bouncing loose again. You notice that rear left tyre, it went from the curb to the green runoff area there, and that's just what unsettled the car a little bit and brought it around into a spin there. So a minor mistake, millimetres of a mistake there, but sometimes that is all it takes. And back to live racing we come then, ladies and gentlemen, and as we do, well, lap number 29, almost done. More laps to come, no doubt about it, but we get the feeling the battle's maybe almost over now, albeit you can see Matt Sproul and Leo Domar, they're closing to each other. It's Leo Domar who is the chaser, Sproul who's the one trying to make sure he doesn't lose out. Of course, upgraded from 8th to 7th with the potential retirement from the race of Schreikenec, as all these drivers right now gaining places. However, Leo Domar's got aspirations to gain 1 more if he can. And well, if he's able to do so here, well, then it'll feel a bit special. But even so, an 8th place finish here, given the way this race has gone and the way race number 1 has gone, I wouldn't be surprised here if the team will be celebrating at that. Coming through the left-hander, turn number 7 in towards 8th here. He's not going to give up until the very end, and this will be a bit of a test for Sproul to just see whether he can manage that gap and keep it at 8 to 9 attempts for the remainder here. He's not got too many more laps to go. Also, we are keeping an eye on Esteban Marquez, who right now does have Adam Merchant getting closer and closer, and when we say getting closer, we mean by 9 tenths a lap closer. So Merchant, in theory, would be within attacking distance going on to the final lap, and they will be on that lead lap all the way to the very end. Our race leader coming through turns 7 and 8 at the moment, so he's nowhere near close enough, but Merchant definitely looking a threat here, and Marquez has got to be careful, although it does seem as though both of them have got their push to pass buttons in plentiful supply. And for the uninitiated, if you're wondering what exactly does push to pass mean, well, these Super Formula SF23 cars, as I mentioned earlier, have 200 seconds of push to pass or an overtake button. All it does, it essentially allows the engine, the 4-cylinder 2-litre engine, which breaks 550 horsepower to the car by default. It essentially enables the engine to deploy more power. It does not change the top speed of these cars. It changes the speed. Well, hold the phone on that, because that Sproul has gone round. Sproul has absolutely lost it there at turn number 4 as he tries to get the car turned there. He's got to take his time. It's a spin. It's not a happy one, but he will get it back together. But will Carlos Balanos be able to find a way and past him? Because here comes Balanos to go around the outside. Yes, he will. So Sproul there has met a late demise for that 7th place. And here's a quick replay to explain what's exactly happened. So this was Sproul coming down, pressure building from Leo Delmar in towards Rauschbend, and went a little bit deep, and in the end the rear of the car just unsettling as he tried to get the power down there, so a bit too eager perhaps for the steering lock he had, and one easy mistake to make, but a costly one at that as we head back to your live racing. And so, as we do, ladies and gentlemen, I think there's only now 1 lap to go for our leader. There is Jaden Callaway's on lap 31 of 32, and the white flag is going to meet him very shortly, and here it comes, the white flag. So 1 more tour of the circuit, and he will be done as he heads onwards. A new fastest lap place, a monster of a lap, a 1 minute 11.154. Where's he finding that time? I do not know. He's been saving it all the way through. He wants the bonus points as well. Jaden Callaway has come here to play today, no doubt about it. And well, as he heads onwards, just to finish the talking point we were talking about only months ago, With the push to pass button, it gives the cars more engine power, so therefore they reach their top speed faster. It does not increase the top speed of the car. So understandably, you want to use it to try and complete an overtake. You do not want to use it necessarily to win a drag race, unless it's going to be on a relatively moderate straight, whereby you want to beat your rival to that braking zone. Have the longest straights, for example, going down the start-finish straight at Fuji International Speedway circuit, not in the calendar for this season. Probably not a good idea to use it there for the simple reason you will top out your speed, and then you won't be going any quicker than the car alongside you. That'll probably use your slipstream as you get past them. But meanwhile, speaking of battle back and forth here, we do have Marquez and Merchant getting closer and closer. And Adam Merchant now getting ready to go on the attack. We will need to leave them alone for a brief moment though, ladies and gentlemen, because as he makes his way down the hill through the final couple of quarters, he led every lap of race number 1. And for this one, barring the pit lane, he's led every lap of race number 2. Jaden Callaway starts off his season with perfection. It's a double victory here for the number 37 driver on the Limit Motorsport. Finney Fitzsimmons then will come on home to take the runner-up spot here, coming from 22nd to 2nd. What a drive from him, just making it to line. Elliott Court, meanwhile, being 12 seconds behind, is going to round off the podium there from 11th to 3rd. A solid job from the DDK Racing driver. And then we will see Fabian Sanchez make it on home to take 4th place in the end. And great effort for the Competition 51 driver. But now there's still more work to be done, as Rafael TV, well, a lap down, has finished in 11th place, just slightly off camera. And then we will see Esteban Marquez here. He's still got Adam Merchant close behind him. But I think in the end, the DDK with TH Jordan Dry is going to hold on for the top 5. Brilliant effort there for Marquez. He gets it done, the Colombian driver, ahead of Adam Merchant, who rounds off the top 6 after his misery on the open lap with Antonio Bianchi. Well, that's great redemption work from him in the number 4. And then we will see Leo Domar take 7th place in the end, ahead of Jace Mayer, who comes on through. The teammates there, 7th and 8th, some good points to them, ahead of Carlos Balanas, who will be the best part of around 20 seconds behind as they complete their race. And here is Carlos Balanas, and we'll to give him credit where it's due. Number 83 driver has come from 13th to 9th. He's definitely had one of those races that's been full of drama and excitement, but in the end he's been able to have a tame end to this one, and he'll be your last lead lap finisher as Matt Sproul, on his second race of his debut, comes on home in 10th place. And here he is, I think, calling on down. The checker flag has already met him, so I believe he has finished a lap down effectively, but he will take that 10th place there and some valuable points with it. Unfortunate to have that spin at turn number 4 that definitely cost him the chance of 7th place. He'll learn from that one, however, and I suspect he'll be even stronger at Watkins Glen in a week's time. But as all the drivers cooling down, and he, indeed all of them, make the way into the pit lane, well, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And well, what a second race a day. 32 laps full of absolute excitement. Particularly that first stint, it was happening every single moment, no doubt about it. And well, if that's the way season 18 of the League Zero Formula Series presented by INCA Salsa Racing is going to go, well, I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be an incredible season ahead. But in our second race at the Red Bull Ring, Jaden Callaway making it 2 wins out of 2 for On Limit Motorsport by 11.5 seconds over Finney Fitzsimmons. And in the end, the priority just not being able to take a candle to Callaway's pace. But to be fair, having started from the very back of the grid, Fitzsimmons finishing second was definitely a huge achievement in its own right. Elliott Court in the end taking home at 3rd place there for DDK Racing. He'll be absolutely pleased with that, given the way the race started and how it's ended. Having started from the pit lane, well, to finish on the podium, that's exactly what he needed to do. Fabian Sanchez, 4th there for competition 51, ahead of DDK with TH Jordan's Esteban Marquez. The gap between the two, 11 seconds. But in the end, from Marquez to Merchant, it was only half a second there, with Merchant in having to make the extra pit stop for repair work after the contact with Bianchi on the open lap, but still finishing 6th and close to the top 5. A great effort from him, but let's also give a shout out there and to Esteban Marquez, because in the end he really was a survivor for 5th place and stayed out of trouble and got the job done. Leo Delmar for Rodent GP just heard his teammate of Jace Matt, 7th and 8th for the two of them. Some good points coming their way early on the team's championship, and then Carlos Balanas and Matt Sproul completing your top 10. Balanas being your last lead lap finisher for Raccoon GP, just ahead of Sproul, and the privateer there a lap down after that spin at turn number 4. But understandably for him, it's an experience he'll learn from on his debut, or some points earned. That'll be the most important thing there for the British driver, and now knowing he's got a foundation to move upon. Rafa Ulti taking 11th there, also a lap down. Last of your finishers on the road to this race for On Limit Motorsport. Some points coming his way, and retiring 4 laps in the end after that huge shunt into the barrier at turn number 3. Well, there David Tri-Connect 4 laps down, but we'll take the final point from this race, the privateer from the US of A. Sadly, we did lose several drivers along the way in this one, including Gareth McAllister for Inca Chips Racing, as we we did DDK Racing's Elliott Rolls. Robert Nobles fell quite early on in the race, and did Renison Low. The two of them had that big coming together, of course, coming out to turn number 8. We also lost Craig Brick to turn number 3, as we did Ray Aguilar a little bit later. And the Squid Gang Racing Giant in the end up in the barrier there on corner exit alongside Matthew Devine. The DDK with T8 Sean Driver, definitely one who was shining here, and we hope to see more of him as the season goes on, with Antonio Bianchi retiring after only 1 lap as a result of that huge incident between himself and Adam Merchant, and the competition 51 drive then being followed up by Xavier Zainav, Arturo Mayorga and Austin Thomas, albeit Mayorga retiring after Zainav. Let's get them in the right order. And unfortunately, we did not see Austin Thomas make his way onto the grid due to a technical issue with the car. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, a big congratulations to all the drivers who saw the finish line, and what a race it was, no doubt about it. And that's all we've got time for here today at the Red Bull Ring. But what an opening round. It's definitely set the scene and the candle for the pace and racing ahead, and we look forward to plenty more as it's due to come. But with that, it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the League Zero Formula Series, in terms of how you can be on the grid, the history of the series, or everything in between, we definitely recommend you go to the number one place, the complete compendium of League Zero information, and that is our official website at www.leaguezero.net. But rather than just talk about it, let's show you it, and there it is. And as we can see, the website for the Premier Open Wheel Racing Series, and whilst we may be based in the United States of America in terms of where we host this series from, we would be very happy to have you on the grid, regardless of whether you're on the North American continent all the way through to the other side of the world, whether it be in Asia or Europe. Indeed, there's a place for you on the grid here. Whether you are a rookie to the Super Formula machine or alternatively a veteran of it, we would love to have you. And then you use this website to find out all the information you need, including our schedule, the Hall of Famers, you name it, it's there. And most importantly, right at the dead centre is the ability to join our official Discord, and do so, and you'll be in the beating heart of the community, and you will be able to get in touch with the drivers, the staff members, and the admins, particularly if you want to sign up and get racing with us. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you, of course, and to our title sponsor, INCA Salsa. Now, if you are a fan of salsa and are looking to taste the very best, then look no further than INCA Salsa. Containing only the freshest ingredients, no gluten, and no added sugar, just like the finest authentic salsa should. Once you've had a taste of the incredible family recipe salsa from Julio Espino, you'll never want to taste any of the rest. To put yourself in pole position to enjoy the best salsa you'll ever have, do head to INCA Salsa's official website, and that's at shop-inca-salsa.myshopify.com today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'd also like to give a shout out to our other series sponsors, who do include, of course, MSR Performance Engineering and also Team Goon Squad. And with that, well, we close the chapter on our first race of the season, but we've got 10 more to go in the book of Season 18. And next time out, the racing will occur on Thursday, the 26th of March, 2026. But we invite you to come join us as if it were live from Watkins Glen International in the US state of New York, because on Friday, the 27th of March, 2026, we're going to see our drivers take on the high-speed, high-stakes, high-risk, high-reward circuit that indeed has been the rebirth and revival place of road racing in the US of A since the Second World War. But who exactly will go to battle there, and who exactly will come out on top, we'll come tune in next time to find out, because there's been one name that's led the way today. It is Jayden Calloway. But will he still be leading after today? Well, that's what all of us will be wondering. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we have been League Zero. You've been tuning into our Formula Series, and I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning into a Paul Walsh production. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.